events have brought the ASA cauldron to a boil, bringing angry thoughts of revenge to even the most gentlemanly drivers. The stage has been set for a new face to appear in victory lane. Who will be the lucky one to claim his first checkered flag? But tonight, the stars of the AC-Delco Challenge Series drive headlong into the jaws of I-70 Speedway, a fast, grinding roller coaster half mile where dreams of victory can just as quickly turn into nightmares. It's an absolutely gorgeous Missouri evening here in the middle of June as we get set to go short track racing with the stars of the AC-Delco Challenge Series. Temperatures in the 85-degree mark as we're approaching 8 o'clock here just outside of Kansas City. Hi, everybody. I'm Ralph Shaheen. Welcome to I-70 Speedway. An absolutely beautiful night for racing here. Jim Treadout joins me as always. And Jim, we've got one of the most intimidating racetracks on the ASA schedule here tonight.
It's fast, it's narrow, it's high bank, 28-degree banking on the turns, 12 degrees on the backstretch, 6 on the front stretch. This racetrack is awfully fast. You can see the banking. It's extremely fast on the bottom in the turns.
Most of the drivers will tell you it takes them at least 50 laps of green flag racing to get comfortable with the speeds and the high banks and those big walls here at I-70 before they can really settle in and get comfortable with the racing. Now, the regular stars of the ASA Tour are always in contention for a win, but there are 3 local drivers from this region who really stand a great chance of maybe picking up a victory here tonight. We want to introduce you to them. The first one is, of course, John O'Neill. He has really been a hot dog here at I-70 Speedway, 95 track champ, doing it again at the regular racing.
Rick Beebe comes in 12th in ASA points. He's a team driver tonight. That's Mike Garvey. He has wins here on dirt and asphalt.
And Tony Roper, his best finish is his career best, a 4th right here at his home track at I-70. So there's a quick look at 3 drivers from this local region who might stand a chance of maybe picking up their first AC-Delco Challenge Series win. Now, qualifying was an interesting story. It took place earlier today, and with that story is the 3rd member of our broadcasting crew. Here's Dave Burns.
Well, Ralph, the front of the field is rather interesting this week. Carl Miscotten, who starts 7th today, his story starts with his former crew chief, Jeff Moore. A good get well to Jeff, who is recovering from injuries in a helicopter crash. Carl will start as the fastest rookie in ASA for the 2nd week in a row. He did it last week at Berlin. This week, he's here at I-70, starting 7th. Scott Hanson has a brand new paint job on his Chevrolet Monte Carlo. His team decided to get him involved with the spirit of the 4th of July. They painted the American flag on there along with a Happy Birthday America sign on the hood. Scott will start on the outside of row number 3 with 2 wins so far in 1996. Joe Knott starts inside of him. Joe is an extremely young driver, 23 years of age, the youngest on the tour. And Joe is in a 5-year plan that he and his father put together. They say this year they're right on schedule with that 5-year plan. The only thing Joe needs to do now is put the Raby Ford Thunderbird in victory lane. On the outside of row number 2, a very interesting story. Brandon Sperling in his 3rd race with the Randy and Mary Ellen-led team, the Ultra Custom Wheels Eaglewood Construction Racing Team, Pontiac. Brandon will start on the outside of row number 2. He had a great qualifying run, and that car would finish 2nd to Gary St. Amant here last year at I-70. That was driven by Glenn Allen Jr. last year. Dave Sinsaba on the inside of row number 2. He'll go 3rd today. He had the pole at Berlin last week for the 2nd year in a row. Dave is very quick in 96 and will look to bring home the checkers for the first time in his career this week at I-70. The front row starts to look just a little bit more familiar. Bob Sineker is on the outside, having gained his 80th career victory last weekend at Berlin Raceway. Bob will start on the outside of row number 1. And to his inside, the current ASA point leader, Gary St. Amant. Now, St. Amant, Ralph, very interestingly, has led the points before in his career, but this time he's done it twice already in 1996. He is poised for his first ever career championship with ASA. And Gary, the question we want to know tonight is, did you come out this afternoon in qualifying to gain the pole position, or did you come out with a race setup and just let the chips fall where they may?
Well, you know, I-70, it's a tricky place to actually qualify, and we actually came with a good race setup, and we just used the race setup to qualify, and it worked out pretty good for the Wins Ford Thunderbird.
Now, Gary, they tell me that in order to be fast here, especially during qualifying, you've got to be loose. Now, how scary was your qualifying lap?
Actually, I was scaring myself out there running 17 flat, and when we put her on the pole to 1675, we tightened it up a little bit. good race setup. Super smooth. You know, this guy right next to him is Bob Seneker. I mean, he is super smooth, and a place like this is well suited for him, and hopefully we can just put this Winsport City Ford Thunderbird up front all night.
Gary St. Amant, a smooth qualifying run, very confident going into the start of tonight's 300-lapper.
All right, Dave, thank you. And the key word is smooth. And talking to Gary earlier, he said if you want to win at I-70, to be fast, you have got to be smooth. And as you heard Dave say, Gary is the current points leader on the AC-Delco Challenge Series. Let's take a look at those points right now for the top 10. See Gary barely leading Joey Knott, Scott Hanson, Sensible, and Siewinski chasing him from the top 5. Where's Mike Eddy and Bob Seneker? Right here on the back half of the top 10. Seneker in 6th, Eddy, Raines, Looney, and Mike Miller rounding out the top 10. Now, the manufacturers' points have really heated up. Look how tight this battle is here. And in division, Jim, where Pontiac has really dominated.
Last 2 years, Pontiac has walked away with the Manufacturers' Championship. Chevrolet had a top 3 sweep at IRP, and you can see how strong the Fords have been this season, leading Chevrolet in a very tight battle.
And we talked about the 7-time ASA champ. Where is Mike Eddy? Let's go back down to Dave Burns and find out.
Well, Ralph, Mike Eddy is all the way back in 21st starting position. And he starts there not because he did anything wrong necessarily. I talked to Mike and said, Mike, what happened? And he said, we went out to qualify. We qualified 21st. That's all there is to it. Okay, we're about getting ready to get going here. We've made our way down to the start-finish line. And Ken Ryan, the regional zone manager from Pontiac, is going to give us a command to get going here tonight. Ken?
Gentlemen, start your engines.
So the motors come to life, and the drivers cinch down tightly on those Simpson belts as they get set to unleash some 500-plus horsepower in those ASA V6 motors. 300 laps around a high-banked half-mile coming your way from I-70 right after this. AC-Delco Challenge Series presents the Pontiac Excitement 300 on TNN. Brought to you in part by Win Oil Company, makers of quality automotive car care products. Remember, when it's wins, it works. By your GM Goodwrench service dealer. We want your business. By Rogaine, the only product medically proven to regrow hair for men and women. By Pep Boys, 26,000 items at the guaranteed low price. Tires and service too. Everything but gas. Well, the cars are rolling off and the sun is finally dipping down behind the trees outside of turn number 1. So just about the time we get racing, hopefully that sun will be low enough that it won't be blinding these drivers as they go barreling into turn number 1. And if you talk to some of the drivers, yeah, turn 1 might be the toughest. Turn 3, Scott Hanson seems to think turn 4. But here's a look at the grid anyway of how we're going to line them up. Gary St. Amant, the pole winner, and Bob Seneker, as you heard, right alongside of him.
In row number 2, again, we saw Dave Sensible's car and Brandon Sperling, his best ever qualifying effort in the AC-Delco Challenge Series.
Back in row number 3, Joey Knott. When is he going to get his first ASA win? Could be here tonight. Scott Hanson, always a threat.
Row 4, Carl Muscott, another top 10 qualifying run, and Rick Beebe. A lot of fans here want to see Rick Beebe in victory lane.
Back in row number 5, Kevin Siewinski, who's been one of the best rookies so far this year, and Buddy Schrock having a good run as well in 96.
Starting 11th will be Tony Raines and Brad Loney. Pontiacs share row 6.
Row 7, Paris Chevrolets. Tony Roper, we introduced him to you earlier, one of the local favorites. Rick Miller, one of the contenders in his sophomore season.
John O'Neill has 5 wins here on a local racing basis. He won the championship a season ago. And Mike Miller, who qualified 5th here last year, he'll have to do it from row 8.
Back in row number 9, Bill Baird almost got a win in a NASCAR All-Pro race at Topeka just 2 weeks ago, looking to make Missouri a good place for him. And Jack Landis in the Noah Yoder Ford, which has won here in the past. Starting in row 10, J.D. Summers, his first trip with ASA here to I-70 Speedway. He led the race late in the going a year ago. And Mike Kofer in car number 79. Row number 11, there he is, the 7-time champ Mike Eddy, and Tom Jones, the zero hero, to Pontiacs in row 11. 23rd position belongs to car number 23, Mike Garvey, and Ted Smokestead in the Super America Pontiac. Row 13, Leading 2 divisions of USAC open wheel points, Kenny Irwin and Harold Farrer, one of the living legends of the series.
Starting 27th will be rookie Brett Bell and Dennis Berry trying to find the handle in his Tony's Pizza Ford.
Back to row 15, Bob Dorsowitz and Aaron Huff, who is finally getting himself into an ASA race.
Row 16 on the inside, Dennis Latman and Tracy Schuler. He'll be racing Mark Kaloff's familiar number 57.
And in row 17, Carol Adamy makes an appearance, and Sam Gottwald, his first ASA start of 1996.
In row 18, the racing doctor, Yale Conley, and out of Windsor, Ontario, Canada, Alec Pincino in a Pontiac.
And Billy Turner in his Chevrolet will start alongside Doug Mayer, who completes his rehab. He is starting an ASA race after a very serious crash last year at Topeka. Now, the 57 car had a little bit of a problem getting started. That's the car that Tracy Schuler is driving, the irregular follower of the series. Tracy normally drives number 61, but tonight he's behind the wheel of the OTC Tools number 57 for Mark Kellogg.
Tracy Schuler had a hard accident at Berlin Raceway. Couldn't get his Chevrolet fixed in time. As you mentioned, 28 degrees banking. It's a little bigger than a half mile here. Front stretch banked at 6 degrees. The drivers will be coming off the banking down the front straightaway pit area. Get a good look there as the crews are awaiting if there is a need for these teams. Backstretch banked 12 degrees, carrying speeds well over 120 miles per hour into turns 1 and 3. Looking at how many cars, we have 38 cars starting this race at 300 lap distance. Again, a little larger than a half mile, over 150 miles to be completed tonight. Gary St. Amant on the pole for his second time here at I-70 Speedway, just outside of Kansas City. You can see the average speed, 116 plus miles per hour. 16 Chevrolets in the field, 9 Fords, and 13 Pontiacs. The Pontiacs in force tonight in the Pontiac Excitement 300.
Let's check in with Dave Burns with an update on Alec Pincino.
Well, guys, that car was severely damaged in practice earlier today. They changed a lot of things on there, including a new motor and transmission, down to the decals with AC-Delco and CarQuest on there. Alec Pincino has a car he has no idea what it's going to do.
Well, we're about to find out as we get set to take the green from Roger Slack at I-70. Fighting for a piece of asphalt. As you take a look at the battle up front, Gary St. Amant will lead him as we complete lap 1. Oh, and big problems for Scott Hanson in the 53. As he loses a few spots, Tony Raines down to the inside, and here comes Buddy Schrock.
Just when you think it's a two-group racetrack, the sun is setting. This track was extremely warm all afternoon long. It's getting a little bit loose. Scott Hanson losing 5 or 6 spots there.
And Kevin Siewinski to the inside. He'll pick a spot away from him. And now Rick Miller. Once you get on that outside, you're really hung out to dry here. You got to get to the bottom to be quick, especially in the early going.
These drivers want to run single file and run extremely fast nose to tail, but Scott Hanson is not able to get down yet.
Let's find out from Dave Burns what happened.
Well, guys, I was down in turn number 1. It was a typical situation here at I-70. Rick Beebe wanted to get by, got into Scott Hanson ever so gently in turn number 1. He wiggled out of the groove, and Scott continues to pedal backwards.
Well, Scott will finally slide in between Tony Roper and Brad Looney. Let's take a look at the replay and see if we can figure out what happened to Scott Hanson.
He was outside of Brandon Sperling, and as he got a little bit loose, Rick Beebe snuck underneath, and now you see Hanson still trying to gather it back up as the rest of the field is full song down the backstretch. And
for just a minute or two there, it was actually a 3-group, 3-wide racetrack. You will not see that often here. So Hanson, a guy with 2 wins in 96, looking to challenge for the championship, has got a long night ahead of him now as he has to fight his way back up into this thing.
Started 6th. He's running now 13th as the leader's already approaching lap traffic. Gary St. Amant, the leader. You see now Hanson still trying to hold off Brad Looney. Looney started back in 13th position.
There's a look at Carl Muscotton, and everybody talks about track position and how important it is here. Muscotton is in the midst of a battle for 7. And we got problems in turn 1. Ted Smokestad in the Super America car loses it, goes through the grass, gathers it back up, did a nice job of saving it. The Super America car now will re-enter the racetrack under its own power. He'll get it back together. find a way to slot back in where he belongs after starting 24th tonight. He'll go to the back of the pack. Well, we're just underway here at I-70, just outside of Kansas City with the Pontiac Excitement 300. And the green flag waves as the Pontiac Excitement 300 goes back to green. And a big pileup coming out of turn number 2. It's got Tom Jones, Mike Eddy, Kenny Irwin, Mike Koper in the 79, and the 86 car as well involved in the middle of that, Aaron Huff. And the 11 car of Doug Mayer as well.
I believe Carroll Adamy and Mike Koper got together. Adamy again as a lap car, making his first start of the season this right here at I-70. He competed a year ago here. He's been attempting to make some AC-Delco shows, but he was a little slow on the start, and he was inside of Mike Koper as that big pack came off of turn number 2. Contact was definitely evident there. As now see Kenny Irwin's front end of his wins Pontiac. Would you say rearranged is the proper term?
That would be a good one. Let's take a look at the replay of this. We'll see it from turn 1 view.
Car on the bottom is Carroll Adamy. You see they get 3 wide. They pinch together there on the left side of the screen.
And that starts the chain reaction. Everybody's scrambling for a place and a way out, and just run out of room.
Down to the infield goes the 0 car. Mike Eddy down in the grass just ahead of Kenny Irwin. So they got a little sandwich down on the grass area as Mike Koper did a 360. He's on the outside out for turn number 2.
And another look as they come at you towards turn 3. You see Eddie's car is sideways. Koper headed towards the wall. Mike got hit as well from Jones.
Alec Pincino spinning around the middle of the racetrack there.
So some of those drivers have made their way down pit road. Kenny Irwin there right now trying to get the front end worked on the Wins car. Carroll Adamy's car is on pit road. There is the Wins machine of Kenny Irwin, who is currently leading both the USAC Midget and Silver Crown points. And he's having some problems here tonight. Howard Thomas trying to figure out what to do with the 7-time champs Pontiac Grand Prix at this point. Some of the fans enjoying ASA racing in the Kansas City area tonight. The Pontiac Excitement 300 is less than 20 laps in of the scheduled 300 here, and there goes Kenny Irwin behind the wall. They were working on the Wins car on pit road, and now they've taken it back behind the wall. Might just need to go back there for some extra work to the suspension. He might return. There's another Wins car in the field. Of course, it belongs to Gary St. Amand. It is Thunderbird, and he is leading. Now, one driver who has had his problems already tonight is this guy, Scott Hanson, number 53. Dave, what do you got on him?
Well, Ralph, I talked to Jimmy Schrader, who's taking the crew chiefing duties tonight for Mr. Hanson. And there's nothing else wrong with the car. It's quite loose, and they're really just trying to calm Scott down after he got out into the gray matter there. Said the pucker factor was pretty high for Scott when he got out of the groove, and now they're just trying to get it back into contention.
Well, as funny as that actually sounds, it's very serious. In talking to Scott earlier, he said this place, and we're talking about a veteran driver who's driven at a lot of scary racetracks in his career and done so with a lot of courage, says that this place is really frightening. He said if you're out there by yourself and you're just qualifying or in practice and you're running and you're loose, he said that's frightening enough. He said, but when you've got a whole field of other cars around you and somebody gets you loose, he said it really freaks you out. And I asked him if you can actually intimidate somebody at this track. He said, you sure can. You get a guy loose, and you can be sure he's going back. And that is classic short track stock car racing, which this series is all about.
Hanson, good on the high banks. He won earlier at Toledo Speedway, and he did a great job. So it's some tire problems.
Well, let's show you what took place last week at Berlin in the Grand Rapids area, where we'll be going again later this year. Great racing week with the ASA, and you were there.
Berlin Raceway 1 week ago, Dave Sensiba and Joe Bush, teammates, started on the front row in front of a packed grandstand at Berlin Raceway in Grand Rapids, Michigan. On the start, it was Sensiba on the jump. Rick Beebe and Mike Eddy both would work their way around Bush. Early in the race. Scott Hanson had tire problems. You see number 53 going by there. He dropped back 6 positions early on and had to fight tire problems all evening long. Here's Sensible leading Mike Eddy again. This is lap 28. Mike Eddy goes to the outside on the uniquely shaped half-mile racetrack. Sensiba and Eddy both have many laps on this surface. Mike Eddy using the outside line and experience here to take the lead. Number 7, Gary St. Amant, the point leader, was running 6th. You see Carl Muscatton running a great race in 7th. Lost the motor heading into turn 3. He backs it in the wall. Also in the incident was Joe Knott spinning off in turn 3. Knott would end up 15th on the afternoon. And this is a great race here. The fans are on their feet. A partisan crowd at the Michigan Oval on a restart. Dave Sensible looks underneath Mike Eddy for the lead. There's Bob Seneca on the outside trying to make it work. This is 3 laps in a row they're running like this. Mike Eddy has the lead. Bob Seneca gets past Sensiba here for 2nd. The crowd in anticipation sees now Seneca work to the outside of Mike Eddy. So in 2 laps, he's went from 3rd to 1st here on the move. The crowd goes nuts at Berlin Raceway, and Seneca's off to the races. Sensible would also follow through, and you see Rick Beebe climbing in the picture. Beebe had a great run in the St. Louis Gear Chevrolet as Mike Eddy regathered in 4th. Here's when the leaders came in on a lap 82 caution. The only pit stop for Bob Seneca. He came in first, came out first, right ahead of Mike Eddy there. That would be the only stop that Bob Seneca would make on the afternoon. Track position was a vital part of this. Dennis Slatman decided to stay out on that restart. He held the lead, but as you can see, Seneca, who came out first in the pit stop, had fresher tires. 1 lap after the restart, Latman trying to hold off Seneca with those fresh right side Goodyears, could not do it. As they enter turn 4, you see Latman gets high and he spins. Seneca goes on and maintains the lead. Seneca was never headed. Mike Miller got this close, 2 car lengths, but that was it. It was Seneca's race to run in front of the hometown crowd. His 80th career ASA victory. Mike Miller made that same pit stop on lap 82. Track position was vital. Tony Raines ended up 3rd. You see Bob Seneca, a very happy winner. The crowd was also very happy at his home track, Berlin Raceway.
So the winningest driver in ASA history picks up another one at Berlin, just outside of the Grand Rapids, Michigan area, an area that, as you can tell from the look in the grandstands, is absolutely enamored with this series. Of course, we will return there August 10th with the 2nd race on the Berlin schedule of the ASA cars. And another story here tonight that we've been following is Kenny Irwin's situation. Dave, what's the story with the Wins car?
Well, Ralph, I think you're getting a view of Kenny Irwin's dash here, and there's a water temperature gauge there that is pegged way past the 260-degree mark. That's not normal, and that's why Kenny had to come in. He sustained damage on the front end of the car. Kenny, just not worth burning anything up out there. Did you bring it in as soon as you saw the gauge go up?
Yeah, you know, there's no really sense in burning up the motor. The Wins Pontiac was going to run good, I think. You know, we screwed up in qualifying. We didn't get a start up front, and then we were back there, and just everything happened. You know, it's really too bad because I really felt like I needed the time in the car and to get some more experience in the ASA series. So I'm looking forward to coming back.
Yeah, can you give us any kind of a description of what happened when you got involved?
When I kind of seen it, Eddie and I don't even know who the other car was, were kind of sideways, and then everybody just started bumping, and I was just right in the middle of it.
Okay, Kenny Irwin, he's out a little bit early tonight. You'll see him around all over the country, actually, racing whether it has fenders or no fenders.
One of the best open-wheel drivers in the business, trying his hand at ASA stock car racing and really making a good name for himself here. We saw some great things out of him last year at Toledo. We're stepping out, but we'll be back. The sun dipping down behind the clouds here at the Kansas City Pontiac dealers, Pontiac Excitement 300. The local fans of the Kansas City area having a great time out here with the AC-Delco Challenge Series. And talking about the different manufacturers that are competing out here, as you see, they're still working on the racetrack. Ford is leading right now in the race, but they only have 2 victories at this racetrack. Chevy actually has 10 and leads that, and the Pontiac guys have 7 wins. This will be interesting to see how this all shakes out. Here's the 3 drivers involved in the crash. Kenny Irwin, Doug Mayer, and Alec Pincino. And let's check in. Actually, there were 6 of them involved in this. Let's check in now with one of those drivers who's standing by with Dave Burns.
It was a big mess and a short night for Just a short night for the Jack Link's car of Doug Mayer. Thanks, Doug. We're down here. This is why Doug Mayer is racing. Jack Link's meats, and they make these meat snacks, which are pretty neat things. In fact, Jim Trado, I think, has put a few of these away in the past history. But, Doug, hate to see you go out so early. How was your first time back, the excitement of being back in the car and starting an ASA race?
We were happy just to make the show. You know, we got qualified. Everything was going pretty good. The guys have been working really hard. You know, the Jack Link's car with no touch on the car, it's been a real good program. This is a building year for us. We want to come and do this full-time next year. The guys yellow. We got the car slowed down, and we just lightly got the car sideways. The guy behind us, whoever it was, came and smacked us. I don't know what happened, but unfortunately, I mean, this has been a hard work weekend. It's been a learning experience for us, but we're going to keep at it until we get it right and build this program up and hopefully do it full-time soon.
And, Doug, where's the damage on the car that put you out?
We got smacked. We got turned around just to miss the people in front of us, and we got smacked in the left front, and it bent an A-arm. And right now, unfortunately, the car is not drivable. We've been putting it together, been learning the track, going faster every time out. We passed about 3 cars in the first few laps here, and then a couple more later on. Unfortunately, this is what happened. So we're going to keep at it until we get it right.
Well, Ralph and Jim, Doug Mayer has a big night tonight coming out after his injury. I think he'll be back.
It's a great way to cap off a good story as the safety crew now is just about done cleaning up the racetrack.
Doug's going to keep at it. He's going to run 6 events total as the scheduled timetable this season for Doug Mayer, hopefully going a full season in 1997.
So here's a look at your leader, Gary St. Amant. Bob Seneca is second. Brandon Sperling is third. Dave Sensiba is fourth. And the 17 of Rick Beebe runs in fifth. As we get early on into this, we have 27 laps done. Here's a look at that replay. Look at the bottom left down here is where it all begins.
Red car is too wide. You see Carol Adamy right in the middle of the screen there is way down on the bottom. Looks like they want to go 3-wide racing, and we know it's not happened thus far. It's successfully anyway. Scott Hanson got punted back a few spots as he got loose, and now this incident here coming off of turn number 2 early on involving a handful of cars, 7 cars in total. Carol Adamy going on by, and you see Mike Kofer spinning, and the rest of the field trying to get out of the way. There's 14 car of Kenny Irwin. We already talked to him. Mike Eddy did sustain left front damage. It's a very quick racetrack here at I-70. Again, the 3rd quickest on the AC-Delco Challenge Series schedule. You're going to look at it off of turn number 2. We saw that it was developing in the middle of the turn. Now off of that corner, Adamy and Kofer lock wheels momentarily. Mike Eddy goes sideways. John O'Neill escapes as he goes skating by on the inside. Alec Pincino loops it around, and you see 3 or 4 cars down in the grass, including the Zero Hero, Tom Jones.
All right, let's update you now on some of those cars. You see the 86 of Aaron Huff is back out. Carol Adamy right behind him in the 92, and the 79, the Rubiano back entry of Mike Kofer is back out there as well. Mike Eddy has continued, as has the Zero Hero, Tom Jones. New restarting procedure here.
Single file on the restart. Drivers cannot pass on the left-hand side of their competitors in front of them until after the start-finish line. Once the race is green, it's green all over the racetrack. There's no passing to the inside until after the flag stand. 31 laps to be completed this time by with Gary St. Amant right there in front. Bob Seneca now with a mirror full of that multicolored Pontiac of Brandon Sperling.
The 18 working to the inside of Brad Looney. That's a battle inside the top 15. There's Carl Miscott. You saw earlier, had a good run going at Grand Rapids just a week ago. He's working with Rick Miller. That's a battle inside the top 10 for about 8th position. Hanson picking up a spot or 2. You see the 53 car.
They're starting to single file and string out. Tony Roper, who was so looking forward to running here competitively at Child's Tire Chevrolet. Driver said, hey, we're going to I-70, we're going home. And indeed, he led in practice. The fastest car out there until qualifying.
And he is dealing, that is the black car right in the middle there, running up in that second groove, the number 10. Tony has got 7 stitches on his chin while working on the car. One of the tools got loose out of his hand, slipped out, caught him upside the chin. He's got 7 stitches. Can't put a Band-Aid over it because of the helmet, and it's rubbing inside there. It's very irritable, really a painful situation, and he's trying to grit it out here tonight at I-70, a track he really hopes to do well at.
He's down to the inside of the Bun-Saber Pontiac. Now he's single filed out. Bun-Saber Pontiac driven by Brad Looney out of Cedar Rapids, Iowa. He'll be hosting 600 of his sponsor clients next weekend in Cedar Rapids on Saturday, 1 p.m. right here on TNN. 1 p.m. Central Time, 2 p.m. Eastern.
There's a look at Looney, working his way through. Now, one of the hot battles out on the racetrack is a little bit farther up in front of this. Well, there it is right there. That number 15 car of Brandon Sperling is having one of the best runs he's had in a long time. A car that Glenn Allen Jr. has done real well here. Car owned by Randy Allen, and that car is really a good race car at this I-70 Speedway. This is a new team for Brandon. He just shipped over to this team just a couple of weeks ago. Had his own racing team, decided to dissolve that and go together with Randy Allen on this, and it really seems to be working out well.
This car, if it stayed intact and removed the driver, Glenn Allen Jr. has 2 top 2 finishes coming into this event. He won the race in 1994, came back to finish second to Gary St. Amant a season ago.
Sperling qualified 4th. He runs in 3rd right now in that Ultra Wheels Eaglewood construction-backed entry. He's got Bob Seneker in front of him and Dave Sensiber right on his tail. Now there's Mike Eddy trying to work his way back through the field. What's the story on the 7-time champ?
Ralph, they're being very tight-lipped down in the Good Wrench pit. I asked Howdy Thomas, his crew chief, if anything was wrong. He said, don't know. And then I asked him if he was having any overheating problems at all, just because he got bumped in the front end there. And he said, no, not at this time. So apparently, though there is some damage there, it's not causing any mechanical difficulties, although you can probably see that fiberglass is starting to wave on the left front.
Yeah, it sure is, Dave. You can see it flapping around there a little bit. Now, the thing about the Good Wrench crew, I don't know if tight-lipped is really the right way to put it so much as that Mike doesn't necessarily give a ton of information to Howard Thomas's crew chief at all times. Mike knows the car inside and out himself. He builds the car. He maintains the car. He takes pride in preparing the car. So Mike does a lot of figuring out what's wrong with the car on his own inside the car while he's out on the track, and then radios into Howard and says, when we come in, let's do this. So Mike might just be trying to figure things out on his own, and when he's ready to tell Howard, he will.
They have the game face on as they roll the car off the hauler. This is, I think, the latest in the season he's ever been this far down in points. He's 7th in points, 1 spot behind Bob Seneker, but I can't remember for the life of me the last time Mike Eddy has been as low as 7th, 5 races into the season.
There's a look at the Super America machine of Ted Smokestack. More on him as well, Dave?
Well, yeah, when he spun earlier coming out of turn 2, Ralph, it was really just a matter of locking up the brakes to avoid what was going on in front of him. I talked to Craig, his brother, who is crew chief on that team. He said, Ted says everything is fine, the tires are fine, and he's simply riding out. They would like the first caution, however, to come in and check things a little bit more closely.
There you can see he currently runs 28, just behind Tom Jones and Mike Eddy. That battle between Jones and Eddy getting pretty good as Jones tries to get to the inside.
See the high banks now. The second groove is developing as there is traction out there for Ted Smokestad to give it a look, as Mike Eddy did pass on the outside of the Zero Hero.
Mike was not in a panic over the qualifying situation with this Good Wrench car. He felt maybe it was just that the sun had came out and heated things up. At one point in the afternoon, talking to the drivers, they were getting temperatures inside their car of 150 to 160 degrees. As these cars and drivers and crew members just baked in the Missouri sun. So Jones sneaks by on the inside and takes a position away from Mike Eddy. Mike also said, you might remember if you caught our IRP show from Indianapolis Raceway Park, Mike got together with Mike Miller, hit the wall very hard, and Mike already had some sore ribs. Now Ted Smokestack goes by to the inside. Mike said to me earlier today, that incident put his healing of his ribs back another month. Now, Gail Connolly goes by. Big problems, it looks like, in this good car.
Certainly has a handful. He's back to 28th position, and he did finish at IRP 29, so he has a 13th and a 29th place finish. Uncharacteristic for Mike Eddy, usually always a top 10 runner.
Well, he was sitting 7th in the points, so he's got to get as many points out of this as he can here tonight as we take a look back for the leaders. Here they come, and look at the gap. Gary St. Amant, that wins for Thunderbird, has built up over Bob Seneca now. Sperling holds on to 3rd. That's the aqua blue number 15 right behind the Bluebird of Bob Seneca. And Dave Sensiba, the former Pat Shower Rookie of the Year of 1994, running along right behind him.
Sensa was having a great run in the Lane Automotive Chevrolet, sponsored by West Michigan Chevy dealers. He's 4th in the points. It's kind of a quiet 4th, though. Not a super spectacular run. He hasn't led a bunch of laps and faded at the end. He's just consistently plugged away, gaining positions. But again, he has a 3rd, a 4th, a 3rd place finish at Indianapolis Raceway Park, coming off an 11th at Berlin Raceway, where he qualified on the pole, 1/10 better than the field. So you can see Sensiba has his act together. Matter of fact, he and his teammate, as you saw on the tape earlier, he and his teammate Joe Bush qualified on the front row at the home track in Berlin.
Sperling really starting to apply the pressure to Bob Seneca now. Brandon is becoming a very, very aggressive driver of that number 15. Comes from California, now makes his home in the Charlotte, North Carolina area. His father, Norm Sperling, travels with him to every one of the races, comes out from California to go racing with his son. A great relationship between the two. Very dedicated racing family. And look at Sperling go by him on the outside now. So Sperling gets around Bob Seneca on the outside.
It's working.
That's a sign now that that second groove really is coming in, and Seneca really is slowing down because everybody getting around him on the outside. Big problems for Bob Seneca.
Teams have talked about having a loose condition, and Seneca may have a loose condition to the point where he can't run as hard into the turns. The outside lane is busy, so that means he can't go in full bore. He's got to hold it down, thus get off the gas pedal to keep the car on the bottom groove.
Boy, Dave, that Sperling car looks great. He's already caught up now to Gary St. Amant. What's going on with him? Oh, big wreck over in turn 3. J.D. Summers involved. Carroll Adamy comes sliding in. A 56 of Brett Bell. If there's a crash, you know Brett's going to find it, unfortunately for him. Dennis Lampman is involved. Unbelievable. And I cannot get over the luck of Brett Bell.
What luck? Oh, man.
Brett Bell in the 56 is one of the most talented young Chargers on this tour. And I didn't mean it in a sarcastic way when I said that, but honestly, every time there is a wreck in this series that involves a couple of cars, poor Brett Bell gets sucked right into it like a Hoover.
Best finish at 20th at IRP.
And that has nothing to do with his abilities or the crew's abilities. They have great sponsorship from the folks at Wonder Bar and Rick Martindale. Brett from Vacaville, California, now making his home in Pittsburgh, Indiana, working out at Jeff Gordon's shops that Jeff did all of his midget stuff from, and poor Brett has to load another broken race car onto a trailer. Well, Mike Eddy and Carl Muscat and some of the others are going to take advantage of the break, so will we. We'll be right back. And we're doing TV from I-70 from the grandstands. And once again, unfortunately, we're cleaning up damaged race cars. Bringing in one of the hoods. That's off of Brett Bell's car. Got a few of those that hang up in the shop this year.
7 cars in total involved. You see they're still working on Bill Baird's car. You can see he's right in the middle of this whole battle here. This Bill Baird and J.D. Summers got together. Dennis Lampman. The yellow car is Mike Garvey. Tom Jones again finding the grass is the safe way around. Carroll Adamy locked it down. You see Brett Bell's car sitting up the racetrack, and Latman sat there for a while as well. The Barricade Flasher Chevrolet.
Well, the Gentle Giant has climbed out of his car as Brett Bell's crew goes to work on trying to pull away some of the torn up pieces of the number 56 Wonder Bar car. But Dennis Latman is out, and Dave Burns is with him.
It's kind of a mess on the front end. Dennis, what happened out there?
Well, I guess I just started too far back in the race, and Barricade Flasher Monte Carlo was running good. Just taking our time, staying out of trouble until some other people got in trouble, and that's what happened to us.
Dennis, except for the car spinning on the track, the conditions seem perfect tonight. Is it a good night for racing?
Yeah, as they were putting more oil, dry it down, and get more oily. It seemed that the racetrack was coming to us, so it was working out to our benefit.
Are you guys going to get back out and try to get some points in here?
Yeah, we'll see what we got. If we ain't got a hole in the radiator or something, we'll be able to do something on laps.
Okay, Ralph, Dennis is going to be watching his gauges pretty carefully. A quick update on Mike Eddy's pit stop. They came in and they changed rear tires on that car. Mike had a flat left rear tire. It wasn't real flat. It was just going down, so they got that thing off of there. And if you take a close look at some point at Mike's car, there's pretty much more damage on there than they might have led on to. On the rear end of the car especially, you see the back bumper cover is away from the body there. And so Mike's car is a little bit heavier hit than they might have originally thought. Hopefully that flat left rear being changed now will get Mike back in the hunt.
You may have noticed that Dennis Latman had a bunch of help from a couple of guys that had no touch on their shirts. Doug Mayer had to share his pit with Dennis Latman, only 30 pit stalls and 38 starters. So they went to work. The crew told them what to unbolt, and we'll see if Dennis Latman gets back out.
Well, the Oak Creek, Wisconsin native, Dennis Latman started 31st tonight as Carroll Adamy tries to find a way off the racetrack. We'll be back with more from I-70 after this. If you like short track stock car racing, you have found a home with the American Speed Association. This is the premier short track stock car series in the country. And if you like NHRA drag racing, if you're a favorite nitro sniffer like the rest of us, well, NHRA today is where you need to be. You can catch them tomorrow at 11 a.m. and again at 4:30 p.m. Eastern Time. Make sure you join my good buddy Steve Evans as he brings you up to date on all the latest from the National Hot Rod Association. Let's update you quickly on the number 15 of Brandon Sperling, who's having a spectacular night in that Ultra Custom Wheels back entry.
Well, Ralph, I'm standing here with George Hall, who is a crew chief for Brandon Sperling. George, how much are you talking to Brandon about driving this race?
Not very much. The Eaglewood Construction Ultra Wheels Lehman Welding car is real good. Brandon's real good. He's being conservative. He's not pushing the car real hard. His dad talks to him a little bit. We're just keeping him real calm.
Big problems on the front straightaway, Dave. Hate to jump in on you, but we've got Ted Smokestad and that Super America car up against the wall. We've got Bill Baird and the Saturn number 26 on the inside wall. And for a little bit there was a third car involved, and it was a white car, Dave. And
Bob Dorstwitz did a 360 heading into turn number 1, number 25, the Lane Automotive Chevrolet, his first start of the season. He is now just making ASA races. He's been away about 16 years. He said, I wanted to go back racing, had enough money after doing his own business to go back into the ASA racing, and he did, unfortunately, spin around on the front stretch here. There's Bob. He bought a car off of Bud Gebbin. He'd rented one a couple of races last season, running number 14, a team car to Dave Sensen, but now this is his own stuff and trying to make his own name here in the American Speed Association.
Let's take a look at the replays as they came up the front straightaway to retake the green.
Keep your eye out for a white car about mid-pack as we see a car postured to the inside.
There he goes. It's hard to tell if he got tapped from behind or what, though. He was running.
Might have been trying to tuck back in and touched wheels. You see Bill Baird also may have gotten some help from behind as he went fast left. When you turn hard left on the front stretch, you might have gotten some help. Might have even lifted the rear wheels off of the Saturn Machine Chevy.
Tough break for Bill Baird. He came real close to winning a NASCAR road race. It was a combination show with the All-Pro cars and North and Southwest Tour over at Topeka, Kansas, over at Heartland Park, just a few miles away from here a couple of weeks back.
Looks like Dorstwitz might have also gotten some help on the front stretches. The speed cam showed you two white cars getting together. One of them was Bob Dorstwitz, who spun around in our fourth caution on the evening.
Problems continue for the 92 of Carroll Adamy. See, looks like an overheating problem now. And there's Brandon Sperling again, Dave.
Well, Brandon Sperling is right up front. We were talking with George Hall, his crew chief, and the point that George was making is that he's really letting Brandon run his own race. They don't talk much on the radio right now. Of course, they are a new team. George just took over the crew chiefing jobs when they made that change of teams just about a month ago. You might remember George Hall. He carried a few tires and tightened a few lug nuts for Johnny Benson Jr.
Yeah, he sure did. He also worked with Eddie Sharp for a little while, and now he is working with Brandon Sperling. This car comes out of the Grand Rapids area, and that is where George lives. So he is working with that crew now, and looks like that machine is running well here once again tonight. Well, 73 laps are down. Brandon Sperling still trying to catch up to the Wins Thunderbird of Gary St. Amant as we go racing at I-70. To I-70 Speedway as we get set to go back to green, and just about a mile or two behind the main grandstands there, the Lewis and Clark Trail passed right through this area, actually parallel to the front straightaway here at I-70 Speedway.
We're just outside Kansas City, not too far from St. Louis. A lot of fans have converged here on I-70 Speedway for a great race. The fans are out here this afternoon, all afternoon in the heat, wanted to see some quality racing. Got qualifying in this afternoon. Gary St. Amant qualified quickest. He now leads us back to green on lap 77. The wins board. Now Rick Beebe looking outside. Check this out.
Gary St. Amant has a problem getting up to speed in the wins number 7. Sperling blows by. Beebe goes by. Here comes Joe Knott, and it looks like maybe a problem for St. Amant. Sensiba gets to the outside of it, but can he put him away? Maybe he just missed a shift.
Could it be the dream turning into a nightmare for Gary St. Amant? He's settled back and forth now.
Oh, a little loose.
Yep. Dave Sensiman now gets 4th spot, and now we see Hanson knows how quickly he can get around Gary St. Amant. He saw the rest of the guys do it ahead of him.
Well, what a great story Hanson has become from, oh, and look at this. Here comes Beebe to the inside. He'll take the lead away from Brandon Sperling, and Joe Knott comes right along with him.
Beebe, one of the local drivers. Merriam, Kansas is about an hour away from here on the other side of Kansas City in the Kansas area. Led a lot of laps here in different series. He led the first 103 laps of the AC-Delco Challenge Series race here in 1993, subbing for Bobby Dotter.
Dave, what happened to Gary St. Amant?
Well, that was great speculation on missing a shift, but that isn't what happened. It's a problem that plagued Gary at Indianapolis Raceway Park earlier this year. Some sort of a vapor lock or other fuel transfer problem in the Wins Ford Thunderbird. Look for Gary to hang in there and probably come back up through the pack, but not until he's got the car good and in the groove. When they restart, it puts him way behind, and it seems to be a problem that's going to stay with him for the entire night.
Wow, what a bad break for Gary St. Amant. There's the battle for the lead, and Joe Knott's going to get hung up behind Dorsowitz. So Beebe will hang on to the lead for now. But Joe Knott is coming. That Valvoline Raby Ford, under the guidance of crew chief Chris Bradley, is really coming on strong. We heard earlier that Joe and his father are on a 5-year plan to get Joe to the height of his stock car racing career, and it is really just about on schedule. Joe is so close each week to getting a win. It's bound to happen any day now.
He had the lead briefly in the AC-Delco Challenge Series points. He's now second to Gary St. Amant. This is a great battle. He's second here to Rick Beebe, who had a severe burn to the right side of his foot at IRP 2 weeks ago, and it looked like he may need some serious surgery to repair that. He spent some time in the hospital this past week, and to couple that, his car owner Danny Hodges had some knee surgery, so the crutches were passed from car owner to driver as Rick Beebe's been hobbling around here all evening long.
Battle for 4th as Scott Hanson goes to the inside of Brandon Sperling. What a story Hanson has become. Problems on the opening laps. He dropped all the way back almost to the 20th position, and actually 13th, and he has now fought his way all the way back up to 4th. With 86 laps down, it is Rick Beebe, Joe Knott, Dave Sensiba, Scott Hanson, and Brandon Sperling, your top 5. Then it is Tony Raines, Kevin Siewinski, Gary St. Amant, Mike Miller, and Bob Seneker.
So the Ford Fords that share the front row, Gary St. Amant and Bob Seneca, both experiencing problems with less than 100 laps complete here. It's a 300-lap contest, but it's interesting to note that the Fords going into this race might have had an advantage in horsepower on the straightaway, but as you mentioned, Ralph, their success story has not been what it has been billed. Ford has qualified the top 3 last race. This race, they qualified at the top 2 positions, and now the Fords that were up front, Gary St. Amant and Bob Seneca, are trying to hang on to the top 10.
Rick Beebe felt earlier that since both him and Mike Garvey are running here this weekend under the same team, and there's Garvey in front of him right now. It'll be interesting to see if Garvey gets out of the way and allows his teammate by. He'll hold to the bottom, and there goes Joe Knott around him as well. More on Joe Knott from Dave Burns.
Well, Ralph, Chris Bradley, Joe's crew chief, is just letting a youngster race. You might think somebody with that few years of experience in ASA racing might listen to his crew chief talk him through this. He's not saying a thing. Joe Knott is driving his own race out there. Now, a veteran who's doing the same thing.
Big problems in turn 3, Dave. I'm sorry, every time you start talking, there's an incident. That Super America car again of Ted Smokestadt involved, as well as the 79 of Mike Kofer. Both of those drivers having troubles here tonight at I-70. There's Kofer, former place kicker for the San Francisco 49ers and the Indianapolis Colts, who struggling to find financial support. Hopefully he's going to lock in something well. He has shown great promise behind the wheel of these ASA cars. Having some troubles here tonight. Runs the 79 in honor of his 49er teammate, Harris Martin, who we're told is becoming a huge fan of ASA. Way to go, Harris. I knew you were a guy with a lot of class. Stay with us. Getty circulating in that GM Goodwrench service number 88. The Pontiac has had its problems here tonight. You can see the front end damage to the 7-time champs machine.
Saw something scraping behind the left front wheel. It's an air duct hose that helps cool off the brakes. It's dragging down beneath the car, and you can see that there's heavy damage. That damage actually was there from the first crash.
That's crew chief Howard Thomas there with the beard as they yank some of the parts off. And Mike will go back out.
Just joining us, lap 13 found Mike Getty with nowhere to go in turn number 2 as 2 cars got together ahead of him. He sustained left front damage.
A lot of damaged race cars. There's a look at Mike Garvey. We were talking about him and the guy who's currently leading this race now, Rick Beebe, and the 17 are teammates. They have not expected to run both cars at a lot of races, and it's interesting to see how that is helping them or hurting them. They both kind of feel it's been a little bit of a hindrance. They're not used to having teammates. They have said, though, that their driving styles seem to be similar, especially when it comes to their setups. We go back to green here at I-70. After Rick Beebe again. Rick brought his own crew along to help bring extra people in to work this new 2-car team out, but they are sharing a crew chief between him and Mike Garvey.
His assistant crew chief, Chuck Moore, is celebrating a birthday, but Chuck has done a lot of wrenching on this car, and they wanted to definitely mention that McGuire Mortgage made it possible to have a 2-car team out here tonight. Rick Beebe is severely burned right foot, all along the right side of his foot. He burned it after he cracked a header at IRP. It was a question mark whether he'd run Berlin, but he only saw the doctor last Monday. He was checked in the hospital for 3 days of observation, and he said it's sore. He was lucky to get his racing shoe on, and he's wearing a protective boot over his foot. Makes him look like Flash Gordon, but it is a heat-resistance material that keeps some heat off of that tender right side of his foot. On his right foot, the gas pedal foot.
100 laps are in the book. Rick Beebe, Joe Knott, your top 2. Hanson has climbed all the way up to 3rd now after falling all the way back to 13th. Tony Raines and Mike Miller round out the top 5. Tony Roper, we talked about him earlier. There you look at Hanson and Raines battling it out. Tony Roper in the 10 car, one of the locals with a good shot of a win, sits just behind them. Tom Jones having a good run in 7th. Rick Miller, Carl Muscotton, and Harold Fair in the CarQuest machine round out the top 10.
2 Wisconsin-based drivers now going at him for 3rd. Hanson in that bright red, white, and blue Wisconsin Aviation Chevrolet, and Tony Raines in 87, the clean burn Pontiac. got back to 13th. Now he's trying to make his way through. We see Mike Koper now circling the bottom of the racing circuit. The Romiano G79, based out of Morton, Illinois now, with crew chief Jamie Neville doing the day-to-day operations for Koper.
Hanson in that red, white, and blue with the big Happy Birthday America paint scheme. Happy Birthday America on the hood. They'll be running that next week at Cedar Rapids as well, which you'll see live here on TNN next Saturday night. They're doing that to hopefully attract some attention to the car. They desperately need sponsorship. And then number 53, a team that's hard to believe is unsponsored, as strong a competitor year in and year out as they are on the AC-Delco Challenge Series. Let's check in with Dave Burns.
Well, Jack Landis is out for good tonight, it appears. Jack, what finally put you out?
Well, we got into a little melee there with the front end on wreck they had in 3 and 4 there. We got everything patched back together, and when we started running under the green there, and some in the right front, I felt it go down. It felt like it was a shock or something, and the wheel bearing and everything else got hot, and started a little fire underneath there, and now we smoked the wheel bearing in the right front. So we're going to be out for now.
Okay, Jack will be back another week to race. A couple of quick updates. Kevin Siewinski was one of the first cars out of the pits. They changed right side tires. That's all. He's back and going. Gary St. Amant, I talked to Bud St. Amant, his crew chief, and he thinks that the fuel is boiling in the number 7 Wins Ford Thunderbird, and that's why they have the big block situation.
They've removed the hood on the Wins Ford as Gary St. Amant continues.
And Raines gets inside of Hanson. Watch that change for third. The Simonton Windows backed entry of Dr. Yale Connolly is behind the wall, and the Super American number 32, Ted Smokestack, is behind the wall.
Jack Landis mentioned the right front wheel bearing going out. The right front is taking an extremely large amount of weight as they enter the turns. You might have seen some sparking going on as they enter the center of the turn for some of these cars. There's a 4-inch mandatory clearance on these race cars, so when they go through tech, they have a gauge that measures 4 inches from the ground. You can see some of these cars are bottoming out on their frame rail on the right side, spewing up some sparks, nothing to be concerned about. But again, all that weight carrying over to the right front as these guys enter the 28-degree banking could be a factor if these teams don't have the right front wheel bearing and the hubs working up to 100% condition prior to the race.
Mike Miller in the Car Cop Team Handball USA machine going around Hanson as well. That now is a change for 4th position. Most of the teams will usually run a 300 to 325-pound spring on these short tracks with the ASA cars. Here at I-70, to give you an idea how much force is on that right front wheel, they're running anywhere from a 500 to a 550-pound spring to combat the G-forces that are shoved down onto that right front. The drivers will tell you they can actually feel the car roll over onto that right front as they get into the middle of the turn. Only for a second, the car will hook up, unload that, and hopefully rocket you out of the turns. One of the best at setting up an ASA car here is Howie Leto. He is the crew chief of the 87. He's standing by with Dave Burns.
Howie, you haven't pitted yet. When do you want to bring Tony in the first time?
Well, we've had a lot of yellow laps here early on, so actually the track is getting faster with the track cooling off. Car's running really good right now, so I'd say before long we'll probably be in for some rights. I've been watching the guys that put the rights on. They're not really all that fast, so we're running pretty good right now.
You've been timing his laps. What have his times been, and are you happy with them?
Yeah, because we started out running probably 1740s, and we're still running the same thing, but the track, like I said, the track's getting faster.
Okay, that's how he let out. He's keeping his eye on him. Meanwhile, Dennis Berry coming out of turn number 2, guys, it looks like is slowing almost to a stop.
What a shame that is for Dennis Berry, the 5 car. He's got a brand new crew chief here this weekend as the yellow flag comes out in the hands of Roger Slack. Jim Daly, a veteran crew chief on the ASA Tour, is the new crew chief for that team. Dennis did have a good bit of news earlier this week. His wife, Michelle, gave birth to a brand new baby girl, Whitney, weighed in at 7 pounds, 5 ounces. So unfortunately for Whitney's new daddy, some problems with number 5. There's your top 10. We're coming back to the Pontiac Excitement 300 at I-70 right after this. We're back with the Pontiac Excitement 300 here at I-70 Speedway, which was presented by the Kansas City Star, the local newspaper here in the area. Did a lot to help promote the fact that the AC-Delco Challenge Series was coming to I-70 Speedway for its annual visit here on the high-banked half-mile in the middle of the heartland of Missouri.
Kansas City Star, also a presenting sponsor. The newspaper here ran stories for 10 straight days leading up to this event, so the fans were well aware the American Speed Association was making a trip here to Kansas City.
Let's get an update on what happened to the Tony's Pizza back number 5 at Dennis Berry.
Well, Ralph, you were talking earlier about Jim Daly taking over the crew chiefing chores. That has been a real positive thing. He's gotten things really lined up for that crew down there in Franklin, Wisconsin. But unfortunately for Dennis, the shifter broke on his Ford Thunderbird. It jumped out of gear. They got it back into gear when he was in the pits. It will stay in fourth, but they are very wary that it might jump out of gear anytime.
All right, thank you, Dave. As you see, we have our 6th caution. Now, just in front of him is Mike Miller. That's the Team USA Handball Car Cop backed entry. Now, Mike has had some changes in his pit crew. The big change came in the area of their rear tire changers. Scott Green is a new man handling those chores. You get a good look at the Atlanta, Georgia driver, and it has made a huge difference in the ability of this crew to complete good pit stops. Mike was running about 21st as the flag came out. He now sits 9th. Yeah, 9th on the field. That'll give you an idea of the quality of pit stops Mike Miller is getting out of that crew working on car number 18. You get pit stops like that, you will find your way into victory lane here at the AC-Delco Challenge Series.
There's Rick Beebe, the familiar number 17. He ran here many years in the program, being sold throughout the grandstand. Beebe's 1 year on dirt. He's 1 year on asphalt. Very quick on this racetrack, no matter what car he brings to I-70.
17 cars are on the lead lap as we've put 123 laps in the books. Rick Beebe, Carl Muscotton, Brandon Sperling, John O'Neill, and Gary St. Amant, your top 5. And it's Joe Knott, Tony Raines, Mike Miller, Scott Hanson, and Tony Roper rounding out the top 10. And tires a big issue here this weekend, Dave.
Ralph, you were talking earlier about the tires here at I-70 Speedway. Remember a couple of years ago they had problems with blowouts. That was because a lot of the guys weren't sure about the pressure to put into the tires. They got that corrected. Plus, Goodyear gave them a brand new tire this year. These are Joe Knott's tires. This is beautiful tire wear. You can see nothing on the outside that would show unusual abrasion on these tires. These came off the right side. This is the right front tire. It is wonderful to go for Joe Knott. He's set up well tonight.
And the green flag waves as we're back to action here at I-70. Goodyear debuting another new tire here with the AC-Delco Challenge Series tonight. They call it the 01. That is the tire that everybody is running on the right side of the car. The left side of the car has the 02 tire. Now, the tire, that new 01, this is the first time they have run that, and it is not unusual for the teams to run 2 different compounds, one on one side of the car and one on the other side of the car, and it is specified by Goodyear which compound you will run on which side of the car, so the teams don't really have a choice. That new 01 seems to be a great tire here this night.
They've redesigned it, and the higher the tire number on the sidewall, the softer the tire.
So the 01, to give you an idea, is the hardest compound tire for the ASA Tour. Carl Muscotton in the Odessa number 8, and Brandon Sperling in the Eaglewood Construction Ultra Wheels Max 15. Having a great battle for second, and as we talked about earlier, maybe somebody would get their first-time victory on the ASA Tour here tonight, and that's a couple of them right there up front.
These drivers have yet to pit, but Carl Muscotton was running 7th when he blew the motor at Berlin. He's qualified 8th the last 3 events, or in the top 10, excuse me. A very strong run for the driver out of Fort Wayne, Indiana. Dave Taylor taking over the controls as crew chief. He had once worked with Bob Seneker for a couple of seasons, so you know he knows what he's talking about. Then he moved over.
Well, Dave Taylor's worked with a lot of people, hasn't he?
He's now making it work with Carl Muscotton. Again, Muscotton running 2nd. Here comes the hard-charging Pontiac driver. Lehman Welding also sponsoring the 15 of Brandon Sperling, now living in Rockford, Michigan. He moved up to make a serious run with this Randy Ellenbach team.
And coming like a freight train from behind them is a 48. Here he is, right there. Joe Knott, that Valvoline Raby Ford is flying. He is up to 4th, and look how quick he caught Brandon Sperling.
fresh right side tires. He came in on that last pit stop and made the change. He did come out of the pits right ahead of Mike Miller, but Joe Knott had the #1 pit stall. So as they got to the stripe at the end of pit lane, Knott got the nod is what I should say. But man, he is charging on his Ford. You can see how fast this racetrack is. 116 miles per hour average speed in qualifying, and Knott with those fresh right side Goodyear Eagles really heating up some track time here. In fourth, down the backstretch here, Brandon Sperling and Carl Muscatin have yet to make a tire change, and here comes Joe Knott off of turn number 4.
Well, the big issue was at the beginning of the day whether or not you go for distance with your tires or you give up track position. And Mike Eddy is bringing the 88 car behind the wall off the back straightaway. So the 7-time champ is behind the wall now. Getting back to the tire story that takes place with these three. We thought maybe giving up track position wasn't the way to go. There you see the Good Ranch Service 88, the Pontiac parked behind the wall. And Mike doesn't usually go behind the wall unless he is done for the night. But maybe, with not running this well, maybe track position is not such a big deal. There's the battle between Bill Baird, who is trying not to go a lap down, to our leader, Rick Beebe, and his crew chief standing by with Dave Burns.
Actually, I'm standing by with Dave Taylor, who's a crew chief for Carl Muscat. Now, Carl's been doing a pretty good job out there. On your pit stop, did you give him a better car? Does he like it better now?
Yeah, we tightened the car up. The Odessa Auto Auction Carbright Chevrolet was a little loose at the start. Good qualifying setup. We got the car pretty tight now. We're just kind of riding. We're out of sequence with everybody. We've got tires on the car, and we can probably run to the end, but we'll pit probably twice more and just see what we got. When it's 100 to go, we'll see what we've got then. Right now, it's just kind of riding.
Now, you've got a lot of experience. Carl's a relatively inexperienced driver. Do you coach him a lot, or does he run his own race?
He's running pretty decent. Back in '90, Johnny and I run together and won Rookie of the Year title, and I'm just kind of a weekend warrior helping him. I've started a business up in Michigan and just trying to do the best I can. I probably won't be with him next week, but I think they'll be tough at the short track over there.
All right, well, he's leaving what he knows with Carl Muscat, and every week he's with him.
Muscat holding on to second place over Brandon Sperling, Joe Knott, and Tony Raines. Your top five with Rick Beebe, your leader, as we step away from the action at I-70 here live on TNN. If you like good old Saturday night short track stock car racing, and we got one brewing for you here at I-70. Joe Knott in the number 48 has just gotten around. Brandon Sperling's 15. That is the battle for second. Tony Raines now in the 87 sets his sights on Sperling as they battle for third. Mike Miller and Scott Hanson all in the midst of this fight. So 4 or 5 cars having at it for second and third place. Raines now trying to get that inside.
Turn number 1, Aaron Huff went around. Kevin Siewinski was slowing on the front straightaway. He was on the outside of the racetrack. Rookie Aaron Huff went to go to the inside of Siewinski. Did not realize, I think, how fast he was going into the turn. He spun and hit the front stretch wall on the pit wall and looped it around.
Aaron Huff began his career racing motorcycles. In fact, if you follow the 6-day ISDE series, it is contested all around the world. Aaron did great in that as a member of Team Green for Kawasaki, competing in Poland and Germany and Italy. Every year he competed in the 6-day. He picked up and took home a gold medal, which is a very difficult thing to do in that series. He's also a 3-time National Hare Scrambles champion. There is our leader in the pits, and Dave Burns is right there.
Well, Ralph, this is exactly what they wanted in the Rick Beebe pit. They were waiting for about halfway, and as you can see, we've gotten to that point, and Beebe wanted to change only right-side tires on that car and head back out. Terry Garrison, his crew chief, is very happy with what's going on. He says Rick's car is perfect. They don't see anything else wrong with it. They'll try to get him back out and back underway. It looks like they've done so. Rick rejoins the fray. Mike Garvey, his teammate, meanwhile, he is about 6 laps down, I think, and they say the car is okay, except for the aerodynamically challenged look.
Tony Raines, Mike Miller, Joe Knott, Scott Hanson, Kevin Siewinski, Bob Seneker, John O'Neill, Tom Jones, Rick Miller, and Brandon Sperling all taking advantage of the pits. Looks like problems for Sperling. There is Brandon Sperling, and unfortunately the driver of the Eaglewood Construction Ultra Wheels number 15 done for the night. There is the car. You can see the damage to the left front. Let's take a look at the replay from the speed shot.
Brandon Sperling running in second position. You see Aaron Huff going to the inside. He ended up spinning, touched the wall, and came up the front stretch and spun it around.
You saw Seneca go by hard on the brakes as well, but I don't know what happened to Sperling's car. Boy, he tore it up good.
Came in the pits running in second position, had yet to make a pit stop. His car is now stalled on pit lane, 2 pit stalls past where he was to pit between Dennis Lattman and Brad Looney.
Well, Dave Burns is on his way to find out what the story is with Brandon Sperling. Unfortunately, the young hard charger out here tonight at I-70. We'll have it for you when we return. We are back to I-70 Speedway. Miss Wins, Lisa Dickinson, enjoying the evening with the fans in the grandstand, signing posters for all the folks here tonight in the great state of Missouri, enjoying the racing here at I-70. Well, Brandon Sperling is out of it tonight. What a great run he had going too, Dave.
Well, Ralph, the side of Brandon's car is part of the story here. Brandon, apparently you got run into, and the side scraped up pretty bad for what you can tell is no reason.
Yeah, I didn't know what was going on. The yellow came out. I put my hand up in the air. I had one hand on the steering wheel. I was looking around to see where the wreck was. And the 87 car just plowed me from the side, you know, for no reason. You'd think that he's been in the series for so long, I think that stuff wouldn't go on, but it does. And it's a shame for Ultra Custom Wheels and Lehman Weldy and Eaglewood Construction, but we'll bounce back at Cedar Rapids.
Brandon, how good was the car tonight? You looked real smooth out there. Was the car perfect?
The car was absolutely perfect. I didn't want to get any hard battles, so I wanted to save the tires. I just gave a little bit, you know, at the beginning so I could give it all at the end. And everything was working out according to plan, even better. And it's just a shame this happened.
Brandon, it usually happens a step at a time. What will you take away from tonight and bring back next week at Cedar Rapids?
Well, we qualified 4th, and that's the best we qualified in ASA. And that's, you know, that won't make us hang our heads down for next week. You know, it keeps it up, but just a blow to us. And we had a good finish here, and just too bad.
Well, Brandon is a rising star, Ralph. I don't think there's any question about it. He's got the team that can do it now, and if luck doesn't bite him, he's going to be in victory lane someday.
And he's a workout fiend. This guy lives for the gym. And he gets in there and pumps iron like it's going out of style, and it is really making a difference. One of the more in-shape drivers, or one of the best in-shape drivers, I should say, in the series. As you take a look at those that are now behind the wall, and you see Tony Raines going around the racetrack, who currently sits 6th in the field.
Sperling again. The caution came out when Kevin Siewinski slowed on the front straightaway. Aaron Huff spun to avoid him. Siewinski is now pulled behind the wall. 5th in points, the leading Pat Char Memorial rookie holder. Buddy Schrock coming off a 5th place finish at IRP and a 10th place finish at Berlin. Also out of the event early. Tony Roper slowed under green, and we'll yet to get a story on what he's doing under the hood. But Roper, a local hero behind the wall. Jack Landis in the car that Todd Forbes, the team that Todd Forbes put together a victory for here at I-70 a few seasons ago. And J.D. Summers, an excellent qualifying run, cut short on his first ASA race of the season. Mike Eddy pulled it behind the wall. Left front damage. Looks to be obviously terminal. Kenny Irwin, overheating problems after an early race incident. And Dennis Berry, the promising rookie, also having problems as he pulled it behind the wall as well, now being directed by Jim Daly as the crew chief for Don Finettione team. Bob Dorswitz in his first ASA race of the season also retires early. Tracy Schuler had problems from the outset in Mark Kaloff's Pontiac, and Carol Adamy in his first ASA race of 1996 also has a Dorothy Lynch car behind the wall. Sam Gottwald in his first start of the season. Alec Pincino in a backup car. He crashed in practice. Now he puts the white 93 behind the wall. And Doug Mayer, who started at the rear, will also finish well down in the running order in his Jack Links Chevrolet.
38 cars started this race, and you can see a bunch of them are already out. One of those is Tony Roper, and Dave, you're with him.
Tony, your crew's going to work there on the motor. What finally put you out?
We're not real sure. I guess it says they broke the rotor or something. Don't know. I just quit going down the front straightaway, and if we can get it fixed, we'll get back in. We're many laps down. We had a real good race car. The first set of tires weren't real good. We kind of backed up, but got tires on at that time, and it was fast. So, I got to get back in there. See you guys later.
All right, Tony's on his way back in. He's had a 4th place finish here in the past. I think you mentioned that, and he'd like to show the home crowd here he's still in it.
Yep, that 4th place finish, not only his best here at the home track at I-70, but also his career best as you look at the field going by. 162, the scheduled 300 laps in. Kansas City Star presenting the Kansas City Pontiac Dealers Pontiac Excitement 300. Just past halfway, Carl Muscat is your leader. sleepy night for one little guy here in the grandstands at I-70, but once we get through with this 6th caution, you can be sure as those V6 motors come to life, he'll be waking up and enjoying the racing like the rest of us here at I-70. And remember, tomorrow, race day live right here on TNN. Rick Benjamin and the gang will be on tomorrow at noon Eastern Time, and again at 10 p.m. Eastern Time. RB will recap all the weekend's events, including tonight's ASA race, right here on TNN Motorsports. Dave, it's caught up with Kevin Swinsky.
Well, we're getting ready to go green here. Kevin Siewinski's not going to be one of those drivers taking the green flag. Kevin, what happened tonight?
Well, I think we broke a valve or a valve spring in the motor, and instead of taking too much problems and causing some real bad damage to the motor, we're gonna take a look at it here in the pits and hopefully get back out. But it ain't looking good for the Brown and Sharp Coleman race and Products Chevrolet Lumina Monte Carlo tonight.
Hey, remember, Kevin is embroiled in a battle with Jack Landis, and they're both out now, so that battle is going to stay tight until they both dropped out for the night.
As the rookies have problems, Carl Muscadin is showing the way.
And it looks like that problem for Gary St. Amant with the gas happens again. He did not come up to speed.
Muscadin is going after the Pat Sharp Memorial Rookie of the Year money. $50,000 for the champion of that at season's end. Good run for him.
Looney for the lead. And Sensiba comes with him, as does Rick Beebe. So Carl Muscadin gets hung up on the outside, and he goes from 1st to 4th. And the Fun Saver, number 33, oh, look at Sensiba get up into the loose stuff. And he'll come right back down into the passenger side door of Muscadin. So now that allows Looney and Beebe to step out. And Sensiba will reestablish 3rd in front of Muscadin. And
Tom Jones has lost it in turn 2.
So the Zero Hero slipping into the grass. What a shame, because he was really having a nice run here tonight. He was in 12th at the time of the spin, battling with Rick Miller and Bob Seneker, trying to get inside the top 10.
We saw Dave Sensible go up that high and save it. We saw Tony Raines get up high in 1 and 2 and save it. Unfortunately, Tom Jones got a little too high above that white chalk line where they put the oil dry down for some fluid spilled on the circuit. He had a slow spin down to the infield.
Well, he got it refired, and he is back out on the racetrack. So 179 laps, and looks like Brad Looney is going to make his way down pit road. Looney currently 9th in the ASA AC-Delco Challenge Series points. He's all excited because next weekend, the Tour and TNN move on to Cedar Rapids, Iowa, which is Looney's hometown. He's got a whole bunch of fans waiting for him to get a first win. What's up, Dave?
Ralph, they're going to the right side for Goodyear Racing Eagles. The right front comes off. It looks good and inflated. Fuel is in the car. Little trouble for Brian Looney with the fuel can. He is all right. Brad is down and away. There seems to be no real cosmetic damage to that car. Everything looks very good. They pick up the lug nuts, and they're ready to go.
Brad has completed 30 consecutive ASA races without a DNF, and that's the longest running streak in ASA. He's completed every race since the Anderson 400 in August of 1994. That is an incredible streak. Not an easy thing to do in any series, especially here in ASA. Here's a look at Jones losing control down in turns 1 and 2.
Bottom of the screen, the last car to enter into the dust there. A lot of oil dry down on the racetrack. 2 wide racing ahead of him, and he takes it high and wide. And watch how long this spin takes to go. He almost gets up into the wall. He brushes it with the right rear in the Fel Pro Pace Jacks Pontiac, and then slowly down to the infield. Long skate across the 18-degree banking as the transition from the 28 degrees to the 12-degree banking. Off of turn number 2 has caught, taking a bite out of Tom Jones' chances for a top 10 finish.
There is Jones.
Gary St. Amant also pitted in that caution, as did Carl Muscadin, the race leader. Tony Roper has returned to action in his Chevrolet.
And we're back to green. Rick Beebe, Dave Sensiba, Joe Knott, Tony Raines, your top 5. Mike Miller, Scott Hanson, Bob Seneker, Rick Miller, John O'Neill, and Brad Looney. 174 laps down.
There's a number of lap cars separating Looney from John O'Neill. About a straightaway and 9 cars separate them as the leaders encounter turns 3 and 4.
Oh, look at Knott getting into the rear end of Sensiba and trying to get him a little loose coming off the floor. And that is not a good place to get loose because that is a very, very tight turn as you come off of turn number 4. We talked about it earlier, how a lot of the drivers hate that section of racetrack. We've seen Jay Sauter and Mike Eddy have one of the more spectacular moments of a finish of an ASA race right there as they got together. Jay went flying and Mike went flying in different directions.
Don't count on Tony Raines' 3 top 5 finishes here, including a second place finish in 1993.
Now, Joey Knott, earlier on in the day, his car was very loose in the middle of the turn, right where he gets on the gas, right about there, but that's unusual for this car because normally it's tight here at this racetrack, according to their setups. So apparently that loose condition seems to have balanced itself out a little bit. Tom Jones out on the racetrack, but slow. He's got a flat left rear. He'll have to bring the number 0 down pit road. Continues to motor on to the thrills of the crowd here in the grandstands at I-70. They're loving that.
For the second straight race, Dave Sensiba held the lead. Now it's Rick Beebe's turn once again at the point. Beebe led the first 103 laps here in 1993, subbing for Bobby Dotter, who was injured earlier in the day in a Busch Grand National crash at Dover. Beebe now again with a very sore right foot, on the front and side of his foot, very tender. Severe burn suffered at IRP. Look at the distance now. As he comes by, this time his lead is increased to 1.78 seconds. So Beebe, once he checks out, he doesn't waste any time.
Tony Raines running in 4th as you look at second place Dave Sensiba. Dave, what's news on Dave Sensiba?
Well, Bud Gebbin, the crew chief for Dave, says that they want to come in one more time. They'd like to do it around lap 200 or after if they get a convenient yellow. They're not really unhappy with the car, even though Joe Knott is pressuring them.
You see the 87 of Tony Raines, the clean burn Pontiac. That machine, Tony says, is a little bit down on power. It does not have all of the latest updates that some of the other cars have. But he says that's okay with him. They've had strong runs to the finish, and he'd rather be in contention and with a good handling car at the end than necessarily have a lot of horsepower, although I-70 is a high horsepower racetrack. So it'll be interesting to see how that plays out. And Mike Miller, once again, those great pit stops helping him out as he is able to sit right there inside the top 5 and in the midst of this battle.
Raines had a very real chance to score a victory at I-70 Speedway with a 1-tire stop, but he did come in again. And Joe Knott in the wall in turn 1.
Big problems for Joe Knott. The number 48 goes hard into the wall over in turn 1. And I thought I heard a bang just before he did that.
Boy, he went in there almost full
tire,
speed.
Do you think?
I just saw the car sideways, Ralph. We'll have to catch the replay, but Knott was running right behind Dave Sensiba, working through traffic beautifully. And now we see the 23-year-old now living in Grand Rapids area from Lima, Ohio.
Yeah, he's climbed out of the car okay, and he'll make his way down to the inside of the racetrack. And I heard a big bang. I don't know if he blew a tire or not.
That might have been the impact against the wall. He backed it into the point where the left rear hit the wall and went skyward. Then the left front hit.
Well, Joe's got the helmet off. We'll take a look at the replay and see what we can find out. There's Mike Miller. Joe just in front of that.
Inside.
Oh, he got clipped with Brett Bell.
Bell was on the very inside of the racetrack, but perhaps Knott thought he cleared him, and he didn't.
The bang I heard was that him hitting the wall. Dave, what do you got with Joe Knott?
Well, Joe's standing right here, his battered Ford Thunderbird behind him. Joe, what happened?
Well, you know, it's a really fast track out here. And, you know, I really hate to complain about slower cars, but, man, I just got to do it. These guys are just way out of control. I don't mind slower cars being out on the track, but they really need to stay out of the way. Boy, we just had a great race car. You know, Alan Knott just giving me great support with my dad, Ron Knott, Raby Ford. Valvoline doing us a great job. mean, it's nothing we can do, you know, just a victim of circumstance. That didn't feel good. It hurt a little bit. I hit pretty hard, but we'll be back another day.
Okay, Joe, the car, I mean, is it going to be banged up pretty bad? Do you think you can get that one ready for Cedar Rapids? Or are you going to pull another one out?
We'll probably have to get our backup car out. I'm pretty sure it's a front and rear clip. I hit pretty hard with both the back end and front end, so just unfortunate. You know, that hurts us in points, and I don't think these back markers really realize that. They should really consider it.
Okay, remember, Joe was second in points behind Gary St. Amant. This puts him back a little bit. And remember that 5-year plan they were talking about, Ralph? This does not figure into it.
No, I'm sure it doesn't. And there is Brett Bell. We'll take a look at the replay when we come back from commercial break and see if we can figure out who is at fault. Did Brett drift up? Did Joe cut in too soon? We'll find out when we come back to I-70. Big moon high over I-70 Speedway here on an absolutely clear and beautiful Missouri night. So we're just outside of Kansas City at I-70 Speedway. We are working our 7th caution here, and one of those drivers that fell out early on was 7-time champion Mike Eddy, and Dave Burns is with him.
Well, Mike's day didn't start out real well. His qualifying effort wasn't something he was real proud of. And, Mike, you mentioned to me that might have given you some indication as to the kind of night you were going to have.
Well, yeah, you know, when things are going bad, things go bad. And, you know, that's part of the racing game. You just keep plugging away, and we'll get things turned around here pretty quick. Yeah, it's a car I wrecked at Raceway Park, and I'm not real sure, but I think that probably has something to do with why the motor broke.
Okay, and so the motor was, in the end, what put you out tonight?
Yes, that's what happened.
Okay, how about that wreck out there? Did that give you any handling damage or anything when you got into the incident earlier?
No, that was just more or less cosmetic, you know. Made the fenders rub a little bit. We got them off of there out of the way, but then, you know, it's just one of those nights that's not our night.
Okay, Mike's cooling his heels now. He'll heat it up again next Saturday afternoon at Cedar Rapids.
That'll be interesting to see Mike back at Cedar Rapids, too, after the final lap battle he had with Brad Looney there, with both cars getting together and going into the wall. And this is the reason why we're under caution again. This car going into the wall. And let's take a look at it again and listen, and you decide what happened to Joe Knott. Kind of hard to tell if Brett Bell turned up into him and didn't see him coming, or if Joe thought he had cleared him and turned down. Now, that would fall under the responsibility of his spotter, would it not?
Consider you don't see a front clip that's missing. You see a black tire, you may see a bumper cover, but when the front end of the race car is missing, there's really no gauge as to when you're clear, if you're clear. If you saw red in the peripheral vision, he might not have seen the rest of that car, and he turned down. I don't know. I'd say it's a flip of the coin as far as blame on that one.
12 cars are on the lead lap. Bill Baird is the first one down a lap. He is actually 1 lap down. Tom Jones is 3 laps down. The 86 car of Aaron Huff is 3 laps down. Brett Bell is 7 laps down. Mike Garvey is 9 laps down. Mike Kofer is 10 laps down as we go back to green. 20 cars still running around the racetrack at this point. The last car is Ted Smokestad, the 32, the Super America car, 37 laps down at this point as he is suffering through a very frustrating evening. Rick Beebe, though, boy, is he awesome. Pulling away once again as he continues to lead. Dave says that Tony Raines, Bob Seneca, and Rick Miller, the top 5. Another local hotshot, John O'Neill, Brad Looney, Scott Hanson, Mike Miller, and Gary St. Amant rounding out the top 10. Carl Muscat still hanging in there in 11th as we are 196 laps down.
BB again trying to pull away a lead. It's only a 10-car length lead entering turn 3. This is the battle for second. You see the difference there as they are gaining on Rick Beebe. Car number 4 is Dave Sensema. 87 is Tony Raines. Both those drivers have come in and have fresher rubber than does race leader Rick Beebe.
Howie Ledow said to me that he felt he went just a hair too long on a set of tires at IRP. He should have given up some track position, put on a fresh set. He might have had a chance at getting that win over there. So it will be interesting to find out how he plays his cards here tonight as he tries to coach Tony Raines home, see if they can get enough to catch that yellow and purple car in front of them, of Rick Beebe.
Rick Beebe's thinking about a sore foot right about now?
No. Not in the least.
It's got to be throbbing, but it's not a concern for Rick Beebe. Miriam, Kansas driver, sharing driving duties in the Dan Hodges Motorsports Chevrolets with Mike Garvey. Both drivers have recorded top 10 finishes this season.
Tony Raines running one of the brand new 1997 Pontiac Grand Prix body styles. And we have found out this weekend that if you like that car and you want to pick one up at a dealer, now you can get it. They have just made their way into the showroom. You need to ask for a Pontiac Grand Prix GT. That is the body style that looks just like the ASA car, and it will actually look just like the ASA car. The templates off the race car and the templates off the car in the showroom will fit identical. And actually, the Pontiac Grand Prix is made right here at Pontiac's Kansas City plant.
They have one here on display as the Pontiacs were paraded around in front of this packed grandstand, and Tony Raines trying to make it a Pontiac sweep here.
Only 10,000 of them in the first run before they get up to some 50 or more thousand every time they sweep them through the factory. So you can be one of the first on your block with.
Aaron Huff now going down to 4 laps.
Taking a look at the top 21, by the way, in your left corner. You see Phoebe Sensico and Raines, the top 3.
Running in 5th position, a great run for the Extrude-owned Chevrolet out of Pennsylvania.
How about Hanson hanging in there, still inside the top 10? There's a lot of drivers here who I think, as we work our way through this, are going to make some noise as this one winds down. And look at this battle for 6. Brad Looney, the 33. John O'Neill, the 45, who has won 5 of 9 weekly races here. Told me he thought should have had at least 7 since he had a couple of problems that knocked him out, but he had 7 of them he felt in the bag. He did win 5. He won 6 of 10 so far this year over at Lakeside, another fantastic racing facility in the Kansas City area, and he is second in points at Lakeside. Really having a great season here in the Kansas City area. It'll be interesting to see what he can do here tonight. Dennis Berry, problems for him. He is out. Dave Burns, you got him.
Well, Dennis, most guys are dropping out tonight and their car's in pieces. Yours looks pretty good. What happened?
We ended up having a transmission shifter problem. You know, the structural transport, Tony's Pizza, Red Baron, Diesel Company, Ford Thunderbird was really a premier race car, and I never had a race car that was so easy to drive. And, you know, starting that far back, and I think we was getting ready to climb into the top 10, and everything seemed to be going good, and then all of a sudden the transmission failed, and, you know, it's just another disappointment for, you know, myself, Don and Marilyn Finetti from Structural Transport and all my fans. But, you know, we're trying to hold our chins up here and stay positive. We got good equipment. The team's come together with Jim Daly as crew chief now, and, you know, we're going to try to stay focused and turn this thing around here in the near future.
Well, Dennis is staying pretty positive. He'll be back next week.
Looney hanging on in front of John O'Neill as they battle for 6th. Looney driving one of the brand new Pontiacs. John O'Neill chasing him down. As we continue to race on with 212 laps in the books here at I-70 Speedway. The scorers continue to write down the numbers. The 1996 AC-Delco Challenge Series on TNN is brought to you in part by Win Oil Company, makers of quality automotive car care products. Remember, when it's wins, it works. By your GM Goodrich service dealer, we want your business. By Pep Boys, 26,000 items at the guaranteed low price. Tires and service too. Everything but gas. By Heinz 57 steak sauce. Let's eat. And by Peerless Faucet. Get more out of your faucet than just water. Back to racing at I-70 Speedway with the Pontiac Excitement 300. Sam Gottwald has pulled the 82 behind the wall, and Harold Fair has pulled the CarQuest number 81 onto pit road. As This racing continues with Rick Beebe in the yellow car, number 18, or 17, I'm sorry, just behind Bill Barrett there as he tries to put another lap on Bill Barrett. Dave Sensipa and Tony Raines will capitalize that as Beebe struggles to get past Bill Barrett.
The racing line here traditionally has been the middle to upper groove will be the second group, but in recent history, last year and this year, the groove is way down on the bottom in turns 1 and 2 since the track's been redone. You see that surface is darker, but Beebe knows how to get around here, knows how to keep the upper line. You can see he didn't lose much ground once he got next to Bill Barrett. They did close in, though, as he was approaching lap track.
Once he got around him, he was able to pull away. Why such good luck tonight, Dave?
Well, they've got a two-car team with Mike Garvey, as you've already covered. They had to split the equipment down the middle. One thing that came Rick Beebe's way from his old Artco days was his signboard. He was number 17 when he raced in Artco. This may be what's bringing Rick a little bit of his luck.
Well, whatever it is certainly working. We got to take one more quick break here. 223 laps in the book. Beebe, Sensipa, Raines, Seneca, and Looney. Your top 5. The Bluebird is on his way. Now at I-70 Speedway, your dreams can turn to a nightmare in a second. Well, they did so for Dr. Yale Conley and Mike Kofer. As they came racing into turn 1, you can see Yale Conley still sitting in the car, but he slowly took his helmet off. He definitely took a hard hit. They went down into turn 1. They got together and almost did a repeat of Bob Seneca just a couple of years ago when Seneca climbed the wall in turn 2 and almost exited the racetrack. Kofer is a little bit farther into the turn 2 area in the inside grass, and Yale now slowly getting out of the car. Look at the replay here. Conley is in the white number 3, Kofer in the red 79. The two of them have had their problems here tonight. Oh, they squeezed in. Yeah, Kofer tried to get in between Conley and Billy Turner. Probably didn't see Conley coming up so fast on his outside. They got together, and you could see the hard hit they both took.
Tony Raines spun. Again, he's running in the top 5. We'll see if he gets his spot back. He may have spun to avoid. But you see the silver car on the bottom, Billy Turner. All of a sudden, it's 3 wide, and there's not enough room for that to happen. And Conley gets a tap, and you see that hard on the brakes is Kofer. He already has a tire down as he scrapes up into the wall. Both cars suffering heavy damage. 231 laps complete. It's our 10th caution of this 300-lapper.
Very sore Yale Conley standing by with Dave Burns. Go ahead, Dave.
Well, Yale Conley standing right here, and Yale, pretty hard lick up there. Are you all right?
Yeah, I'm fine. Simonson Windows, number 3 Chevy. We broke a rear end. We were on the lead lap, lap 120. We came in. I'm going out to just log my laps. We're running for the points. And 79 car just came up, and, you know, here we go. This is a fast racetrack, and there's just no room for a lot of error. And we're over tonight. I want to say hi to my wife and kids. See y'all tomorrow. Thanks.
Boy, he did take a shot. Mike Kofer took a pretty good hit as well. The Rumiano back number 79. There goes Mike's car away on the hook, and that's a shame as well.
We don't see the right side damage on that one.
No, and Mike not fortunate to have the big sponsorship money. He is struggling to keep that team afloat, and this is not going to help him any. Hopefully, they'll be able to find something to keep him out racing as well. We're going to take one more look at it.
Look at the silver car on the very bottom of the racetrack going into turn number 1, almost on the apron. Kofer's trying to shoot the gap here, but Conley was ahead of him as they entered the turn, and again, heavy contact before they hit the fence.
Tremendous closing speed by Yale Conley as they came flying down into turn 1. I think just about the time Mike realized Yale was there, it was too late. What do you think, Dave?
Well, Mike's taking a pretty serious blow here in terms of sitting down and resting. Just fatigue, or did you take a pretty good shot?
You know, I took a shot in the left rear, and that turned me sideways into the dock there. And, yeah, I thought I gave the guy plenty of room. I mean, I don't know. You know, he was down on the apron. I don't know if he was coming out of the pits or what, but, you know, you're supposed to mash on the back straightaway if you are coming out on the pits, and if you're down on the apron going into 1, you're in a boatload of trouble anyway. So, you know, I mean, right off the bat, the car was good, and darn if we didn't, you know, get turned into the wall, and then we couldn't miss the accident there. Just some bad luck, you know. I mean, we're doing as best we can do, and if we can stop getting in these little wrecks and keep the car clean, you know, we feel like we can be pretty fast. But, you know, I mean, I'm being as nice as I can and move over and let the leaders by. You know, a car that slow, I mean, I'd been around him 12 times already, and the leaders had been around me 8 or 9, you know, so, I mean, where do you draw the line, you know? But I'd just like to thank Rumiano Cheese and Green Street Station back in Brownsburg. You know, they came on and helped us out, and we'll get this thing put together. We're young, you know, we're not real experienced on these deals, but we're getting better.
Ralph, I kind of get the idea that this place puts so much stress on the drivers themselves that when something like this happens, they're about to lose it. It really gets the best of you here.
We talked about the speeds and the cauldron coming to a boil in the middle of summer here with the ASA Tours. We get to these very fast half-mile high-banked racetracks. You see the damage to Tony Raines' car on the backside that he suffered in that. And whether it's Billy Turner's fault or not, or it's 3 wide was too much over there, just like with Joe Knott, this racetrack has these drivers on the edge, and when something like that happens, it happens so quick, there's no way you can catch it. And unfortunately, it has been some talented drivers here tonight, like Mike Kofer and Joe Knott and Yale Conley, knocking them out. There's Tony Raines. The problems to the 87 came from this.
You saw the damage on the rear bumper as he slowly went by. Now keep an eye on Bill Baird coming in the orange 26 at the bottom of the screen. You see the problems there. Tony Raines getting sideways at the very edge of your screen to the right. Bill Baird already running without a front clip on his car. Perhaps didn't know where the front end was. Gets into Raines. They both got their spot back, so Tony Raines will be running in the 3rd spot once we return. And under this caution, Tom Jones has had a driver change. Dennis Berry now driving in relief in the 0 Pontiac.
I want to say hello to Keith Strunk, crew chief. Bill Baird back home suffering from chicken pox. Better, Keith. See you soon. We'll be back. We're back to the Pontiac Excitement 300. Racing Electronics is the official communications equipment supplier of the American Speed Association. They are offering you the opportunity to win a Uniden Bearcat scanner on each ASA telecast right here on TNN. Along with the scanner, you get a 1-year Racers Frequency membership. It's a drawing, and to enter, you need to send your name and address on a postcard to Racing Electronics, P.O. Box 26792, Charlotte, North Carolina, 28221. Now, this week's winner is Betty Slatton from Sapulpa, Oklahoma. Congratulations, Betty. Enjoy your scanner from Racing Electronics. You'll now be able to listen in to all the ASA teams and crews as they discuss race strategy like they're doing now that we've gone back to green. Still some discussion as to whether or not Billy Turner went into Kofer, Kofer went into Turner, and Conley came down on Kofer. There'll be a lot of that, I think, between now and Cedar Rapids. Same situation with Joe Knott we saw earlier. We got plenty more racing to go here as we close in on the 250 lap mark, and Tony Raines going after Dave Sensipohard. Now remember, Raines was involved in that incident with Kofer and Conley and Turner. He got hit from behind. You can see the damage to the left side of the rear bumper from Bill Baird. They don't think the problem is with the rear end of the car, but maybe, Jim, because he spun the car, he might have flat spun the tires, maybe causing a vibration. That could be a big problem.
Dave Burns talked to Howie Leto. He said it's not a problem, but it's amazing that he's running this fast. It's not a problem at all.
Dave, more on this story?
Well, you know, Jim, that's true. And Howie also said that he walked down to the Bill Baird pit and had a little bit of a talk with their crew.
Could have been Bill Baird not getting on the brakes as soon as Tony Raines did.
Well, he could have a problem.
Spotters are such a key factor here with the speeds we're carrying around this big half mile.
And Bill might be having a problem with his brakes since he's got so much damage to the front end of that car. You just never know. So Reigns continues to chase Sensiba, who's hot after Beebe. That's your top three. Bob Seneker, the Bluebird, has, as he always does, right there, snuck back into this. He sits fourth right now. Brad Looney is fifth. The other blue car right behind him, there he is, the 33, right behind Seneker. Then you've got Mike Miller right behind him. So that is sixth position. Right there is Miller, and closing in on them as well is the 53 is Scott Hanson, who is also inside the top 10, one spot behind. So the top 7 cars all running in order. Then it's the 8 machine and the 45. It's Muscatine and John O'Neill as you look at Miller going inside of Brad Looney.
Boy, Mike Miller's doing a great job turning into the corner. He put the left sides on the yellow stripe the last couple of laps. It finally paid off as he got inside of Brad Looney, taking over the 5th position now. And Miller is not done yet. He might have something for Bob Seneker before too long here.
The car cop, Team USA handball, entry really running well. And Looney sneaking right along with him. And look at Miller going after Seneker now.
At this point in the race, 50 laps to go now. Bob Seneker may let Mike Miller go and save the tires. I would think with someone running as close behind as Mike Miller is to Bob Seneker, it may force him to abuse the tires a bit. He may let him go here and see if he'll back up to him.
Remember, we talked about it earlier, some of these teams having very different theories on tire strategy here now as they get used to the brand new Goodyear compounds that Goodyear is providing this year. Everybody's saying the new Goodyear tires are absolutely phenomenal. But for example, here tonight, they're getting the new 01 compound tire for the first time, which is a tire being run on the outside, the right side tire. So everybody's not sure yet. Let's see how that tire strategy plays out. Miller going after Seneker, working him hard. Oh, Seneker slips. Here comes Mike Miller.
Rick Beebe's off the pace as well.
And we've got a yellow. And Beebe slows dramatically in the 17. And smoke coming out of the back of the 17. Just a wisp of smoke coming out of the back of the 17 of Rick Beebe. What a shame it'll be if that car has suffered a mechanical problem.
By far, he has led the most laps in this event. He's the 5th leader of the event. He's leading going away. He had nearly a second on Dave Sensiba, that great battle we were showing you, because Beebe was out of the picture.
The winner of the Pat Shower Rookie of the Year award last season. And enjoying great success here in his sophomore year on the tour, and he's going right behind the wall.
The fans here give an ovation as they saw a great run for a driver that's put in many laps here at I-70 Speedway. We talked about him. And John O'Neill is still on the race course. He is the local late model driver, running occasionally in the American Speed Association, the Country Mart Ford.
And richly deserved as well, that round of applause as the crew will lift the hood. And he is conveniently parked right in front of our cameraman Brad Hutton back there, so Brad able to bring us these shots as the crew scrambles to find the problem. It's in there somewhere.
Brad Looney now comes in the pit area in the Bun Saber H&W Pontiac.
Well, let's check in with Dave and find out what happened to Rick.
Well, we're holding up Rick here from getting out of this car, which is pretty warm in there. You had a great run going, Rick.
I'll tell you what, I just got to thank McGuire Mortgage for helping me out in this race. And they came in behind us and helped us out. Tried to run a little show for him here at the weekly track at I-70, our home deal. But I'll tell you, I just got to thank Dan Hodges and all my guys, McKeon City guys, Terry Garrison, the crew chief. And we had a pretty decent run going. This just had a little problem there at the end.
What finally put you out, Rick?
I think we broke a rod or something in the engine, and just that wasn't meant to be tonight. Man, I got to thank Dan Hodges for letting me drive this car. Maybe we'll be back in it again soon.
Hey, Rick, when you step out of the car, everyone gets to see that pretty slipper you got on your foot there. How's the foot tonight?
It isn't too bad, actually. I'm glad I had it on, though, because I had a lot of heat in the firewall, and really felt pretty good. I'm not even really that tired. It's just when you got a car that works that good, those guys had this car that's perfect tonight. It doesn't get any better than this. I'm just cruising.
Hey, guys, I think that's what they talk about when they say these guys really like to do this. Rick Beebe had one of those runs going tonight.
They must, Dave, because temperatures earlier today as Rick climbs out were recorded at 150, 160 degrees inside the car. You heard Rick talking about his foot on fire as you get a good look at that slipper that he is wearing with the fireproof materials lining it. Now, at race time, the temperatures were about 85 degrees. The biggest difference was just the fact, I think, that the sun went down and it wasn't blazing right down on everybody. But it is still awfully hot inside those race cars. And there's one tired and frustrated race car driver. Now, Brad Looney, playing the tire game, gave up track position to pit and take on 2 new tires. And we were working lap 257 of a scheduled 300. It's going to be interesting to see how that tire strategy plays out now, if giving up track position was too much or if new tires is just where you need. Did you see, did he get right side or left?
That's his third stop. He came in for rights on lap 92. He came back in the pits on lap 170 for lefts. He led Gary St. Amant in the pits as he held the lead briefly, and coming back in on lap 254 under this caution. So I'm guessing he's got fresh rights, and the lefts have, again, since lap 170. The lefts have stayed on the car.
Zero hero. Tom Jones had a pretty good run going earlier, Dave, but he's out as well.
Well, he hasn't having problems with his foot, but Tom, I understand you were having a little lack of oxygen there in the cockpit.
Yeah, I got into the oil dry in the straightaway and got up and got the wall and knocked the interior loose, and all the exhaust was coming in the car. And I went as long as I could, and it was just so much heat, you just couldn't, there was no air. So I figured instead of wrecking the car and bringing it in, we had Dennis Barry there to take over, and I figured it was a good ride for him.
Okay, so I mean, you guys aren't quite the same size. Is that car a little bit small for him?
Nah, we're about the same size, you know. We had a good race car tonight. It's a shame that happened. I mean, we had a little bit of carburetor bobbling, but you know, it's a shame because we had a real good top 10 car, no doubt about it. I mean, the guys we were ahead of are running 4th and 5th, so.
We've seen a lot of things break out there tonight. Is this typical for I-70, the way it beats up on everybody?
Yeah, you really got to concentrate at I-70, and I guess I got up too close to the wall, and when I got to the corner, the back end come out from under me, and a lot of people I see doing the same thing.
Okay, that's Tom Jones' story. He'll come back next week.
We get a note now that Rick Beebe led a total of 156 laps. Over half of this race has been paced by Rick Beebe. He will get the 5 bonus points for leading the most laps. Unfortunately, he will not be one of the first-time winners this evening, but there are still a couple of guys running in the top 5. They have a shot at their first victory. Dave Sensiba, Mike Miller's only ASA win came in 1981.
260 laps, just about down. Sensiba, you're leading. Bob Seneker got his 80th career win at the last ASA race at Berlin in Grand Rapids just a week or so ago. Troubles tonight, Dave Burns.
Well, he's just stalled the motor on his Lane Automotive Mechanics Square Ford Thunderbird. Now he's back out and going. They had trouble removing the right front tire and getting that back on. You can see the damage there. The tire obviously flat. He'd done some damage up in the front suspension there, I think, but mainly it was cosmetic. They had to pull it away to get him up and out of here, and so they changed both right side tires. He's back out.
Dave, I think he's going to be coming right back in. If we can get a look at that outside tire, that right front tire, you'll see it's still not sitting just right. It didn't look to me, Jim.
The way he popped the wall, it looked like the steering arm got bent. They didn't see it on the pit stop, but as he pulled away, it might have popped out of joint, steering arm or tie rod.
Well, let's see. As he comes back around onto the front straightaway, we should get a better look at it.
Could have even been the lower A-frame.
He's going right for the pits, so the...
It's not pointed the same direction as the other wheel.
Yeah, JR Automation, Lane Automotive Mechanics Square Ford Thunderbird. Big problems right there on that right front. Now, if you like Saturday night short track stock car racing, look at the pack. All 6 of these cars running inside and battling inside the top 10 as they went hauling it down into turn number 3. Seneker just drifts up and right into the wall.
I'm thinking he saw pressure from Scott Hanson down low, and he thought he would pile into turn 3 with the gas pedal still down and didn't have time to gather back in. He might have had some brake problems, too, because there's a lot of guys drifting high in the turns. Look how late Seneker is on the gas here. You don't see the car dropping down as he applies the brakes. No contact there, but, man, he hit a hard lick in the wall up in the gray stuff.
Crew is still working on the car. They're looking at that right front. They've pulled the body panels away.
See, the inside of the wheel is chewed up as well, so something's definitely hitting down low.
Yeah. So I guess It's rubbing right on the
in the frame railing.
Frame railing.
Yep.
And
you pop that wheel in as well. Its normal position, 2 or 3 inches into the inside of the car.
So Dave Sensiba, Mike Miller, Scott Hanson, John O'Neill, the local kid, and Rick Miller having a phenomenal night in the 31. That extrude home power flow Chevy of Rick Miller sits in 5th. Could be his best ever ASA race.
Rick Miller's competed weekly at the Pennsylvania racetrack called Jennerstown Speedway. ASA will take 2 visits there, including July 20th. So get your tickets now.
Here comes Mike Miller to the inside of Sensiba. Oh boy, that's close as they go down into 1, and we've seen lots of problems there. Here comes Hanson now.
Mike Miller becomes the 6th different leader, and Hanson now sees the door open.
And John O'Neill, can the local boy pull one off? He's already missing a hood, but he's still running in 4th. Oh boy, he's close to rubbing down there, and now we head down the straightaway to the portion of the racetrack that Hanson hates the most, turn 4. And it is in turn 4 that Hanson will lay claim to 2nd.
High-speed excitement on the high banks at I-70, 28-degree banking in the turns. These cars really hauling down the backstretch.
That is your top 7 right there. John O'Neill, Rick Miller, and behind them you see Carl Miscotton and Brad Looney and Gary St. Amant catching up into that pack as well. And we have got a story out of the pits with Dave.
Well, it's Bob Sineker. Bob, you said the car was not as perfect as it was last week. How good was it?
Well, it wasn't good enough to win, but we were running top 5 pretty easy. A tire or something laid down in the right front there. I couldn't keep it off the wall. Too bad. We'll do it again next week.
Okay, Bob's out. Little contact up there. Pretty unavoidable here at I-70, eh, guys?
I wonder if he went too far in tires.
At Indianapolis Raceway Park, Bob Seneker and Mike Eddy both had problems. Eddy finished 29th with it after retiring with an accident, and Bob Seneker lost the motor in his Lane Automotive Ford. They both finished, let's see, Seneker 23rd, Mike Eddy 29th, so it seems like when the veterans of ASA have a problem, it's kind of contagious for Mike Eddy and Bob Seneker.
Well, this could be important because we've talked about these guys and how far they're going on their tires and so forth, and you see Rick Miller now having such a great night. It looks like he's slipping up a little bit.
Lap 92 was the only stop for Bob Seneker I have on my unofficial records. He only came in for right sides at that point. We know Brad Looney has had 3 tire changes. Only 2 tires allowed to be changed under any yellow flag conditions, so they usually do a right side or left side, sometimes rear tires to close up the stagger in these bias ply Goodyear Eagles.
All right, now Dave has just radioed up to us. He did talk to Bob Seneker, and he did go. He feels too long on those tires. So now we'll have to check and see if the rest of them have gone too far on their tires as well. As we watch Carl Miscotton and Brad Looney battling for 5th as we continue here at I-70. We'll be back to close this one out as 278 laps go in the books. Scott Hanson's red, white, and blue all-star number 53 Chevy trying to chase down the Pontiac Grand Prix of Mike Miller. That is your battle for the lead. Dave Sensiba, John O'Neill, and Carl Miscotton run through the top 5 behind these two. 284 of a scheduled 300 are completed. Well, we saw Seneker say that tires were the problem. Went a little too far on them. Find out now how these 2 guys have done on their tires. With 85 to go, or 285 laps down, I doubt highly that even if there was another yellow, that anybody would give up track position to come in for a set of tires. But did one of these 2 Dave Ferns maybe go too far on their tires, and they might be right on the edge?
Crew chief for Dave Sensiba probably said it the best. He said, it's too late late to worry about it now. So Dave Sensiman is staying out there. He's using what he has. Obviously, he is not able to challenge the two front runners. Carl Hyland, crew chief for Mike Miller, said they're fine. Mikey likes the car. Scott Hanson, however, he's got a different problem. They have lost communications with their spotter. They just scattered teammates all over the track here to spot for Scott. They no longer have that high lookout position spotting for Scott Hanson.
Scott Hanson is running second. Mike Miller is the leader. They both came in on lap 119 for right sides, back on lap 151 under caution for right sides. So they're on the same pit schedule, both with equal wear. We'll see who kept the better track of easing in and easing out of the turns here at I-70.
Hanson has had a great year so far. He has 2 wins. He has 2 pole positions. He's sitting in the thick of the points chase in third. This could be a good night for Scott Hanson. Mike Miller still looking for his first win of the year. And this would be a tremendous boost for the Atlanta native. 10 laps to go. Which one of these drivers played the guessing game properly with these brand new Goodyear Eagle tires? It looks like the rest of the field didn't guess as well, as they're not able to keep pace. Sensible, Looney, Muscat, Raines, Gary St. Amant, John O'Neill, Rick Miller, and Bill Baird chasing back through the top 10. There is Muscat and Raines. That is a battle for 5th position.
Carl Muscat is driving the race of his career here. He has never finished in the top 10 in an ASA event, and now he's passing Tony Raines. He got by John O'Neill a few laps ago. O'Neill, of course, the local driver. Carl Muscat, an excellent run. He's missing the right front fender, so he's coming back from adversity here and holding off Tony Raines, obviously with a lot more of experience in these kind of race cars.
Whoa, and there was Brett Bell with a hiccup for Tony Raines. We see that dealing with slower traffic again. It definitely cost Raines a shot at catching Muscat, and with less than 10 laps to go, Tony might not even get another one by the time he catches him. It has really been a classic short track stock car race here with the AC-Delco Challenge Series at I-70 once again. Now, Mike Miller hates going into turn 1. Scott Hanson hates going into turn 4. We talked about how there can be an intimidation factor here at I-70. If you get the guy loose, especially in an area he hates to be in, it can make all the difference in the world.
3.5 laps to go now.
Will Scott Hanson catch up close enough to Mike Miller that he can get the 18 just a hair loose? Which, hey, in short track stock car racing, bumping and banging is a legal deal. Will he get a shot? Slower traffic from Ted Smokestack comes into play. Here comes Hanson now onto the back side of him. But he can't get close enough as we wind this thing down with 3 laps to go. Now they're into the section of the racetrack that Hanson hates the most. And look at the battle between Sensiba and Looney for third. Looney has caught Sensiba, and with 2 laps to go, can he get around him? Down the back chute. And back up front we go as the white flag comes out one more time into turn 1, and Hanson's right on it. He really went in deep that time. Down the back stretch, and Hanson hates turn 4. How deep will he run it in there, knowing that he can't stand that section of track? He's right on it. Pulls out, and Mike Miller wins his first ASA race of 1996. And Dave Sensiba hangs on for third over Brad Looney. Muscat is 4th, Raines is 5th. And another tremendous finish with the ASA Series here at I-70. Mike Miller is the winner of the Pontiac Excitement 300, getting 1 win for the home team manufacturer. We'll be back to talk to our winner right after this. The City Star presented the Kansas City Pontiac Dealers Pontiac Excitement 300, and Mike Miller was the winner. He's with Dave Birds.
Well, Mike Miller is climbing out of his car right now, and Mike, a whole lot of people getting pretty excited down here. It's been a long time since you've been in Victory Circle. Tell us all about it.
Well, I tell you what, the Car Cop USA Team Handball Pontiac, Wagner-powered Pontiac really was flying tonight. I'll tell you what, the win is dedicated to my crew. Those guys did an absolutely fantastic job of changing tires again. And, I mean, it's really great.
Well, Mike, it's good to see you back in victory lane. Like I say, a lot of people are pretty excited about this. Carl Hyland, his crew chief, went nuts over this, and one of the first guys to congratulate him was his former crew chief, Dennis Grossnickel. It's a great night for Mike Miller.
Thank you, Dave. Way to go, Mike Miller, the driver of the Car Cop Team Handball USA entry, getting in the win here. We talked about those pit stops being a big difference for him, and it really paid off as you take a look at the top 10. Hanson, Sensible, Looney, Muscatine, Rains, Gary St. Amant, the pole winner, comes home 7th. John O'Neill, a local boy, has a great run. He comes in 8th. Rick Miller, one of his best runs as an ASA driver. And Bill Baird, is this team getting stronger or what? Fighting back through adversity again tonight. He comes home in 10th. The wins winning move, we're going to give it to Carl Muscatine tonight, the driver of the Odessa number 8. He fought back through adversity as well here tonight as he had quite a few shots at the lead, including this point here. And we're going to give it to Carl Muscatine, who comes home in 5th place here tonight. So the wins winning move goes to Carl Muscatine here tonight at I-70 Speedway. So a great night of racing as Muscatine gets that wins winning move. Let's go down now to Scott Hanson.
One question, got to be short. Well, Scott Hanson is here. Another second-place finish for you. It's a banner year.
Yeah, we had a good run. You know, I just blistered all the tires. I didn't scuff them. My mistake. Second's a good run for us.
Kind of a win for America with all the stuff on your car, huh?
You bet. We'll come back to Cedar Rapids. She's all in one piece. I think we'll do good there.
All right, Scott Hanson, second tonight.
Well, Dave, that should move Scott Hanson maybe into second place in the point standings since Joey Knott had some troubles. It'll knock him back a little bit. Gary St. Amant should stay atop of the point standings. Mike Miller and Angela Montgomery from Pontiac exchanging hugs as a lot of jubilation down in victory lane for Mike Miller, the driver from Atlanta, Georgia.
Sweet Johnson from AC-Delco getting involved in victory lane ceremonies. Kendall Bastide handling those chores for ASA with the trophy. First time since 1981, Mike Miller has won a race, his second career. ASA, look at that, he gets to kiss Lisa Dickinson, too. Not too many people get to do that.
Well, the ASA Tour will move on to Cedar Rapids, Iowa at Hawkeye Downs. Another great half mile, the home track of Brad Looney. Will he get his first ASA win? You can find out live next Saturday night right here with TNN Motorsports as we'll make our way up to Cedar Rapids to bring you all the live racing from Hawkeye Downs. For Dave Burns, who did a great job down in the pits, my good buddy Jim Tredow, who always straps in next door to me, and the entire television crew here from TNN, who did another marvelous job bringing you great AC-Delco Challenge Series coverage live on TNN. The win for those guys. Mike Miller gets his first victory of 1996. I'm Ralph Shaheen. So long from I-70. We'll see you next week, Cedar Rapids.